Stand by. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting of the Cincinnati Board of Park Commissioners to order. It is Thursday, April the 20th, and it's a beautiful sunny day in Eden Park. The sun always comes out when the park board is meeting. So thank you all for coming to our meeting and for enjoying Eden Park today. We have first on our agenda some public comments, and first up will be Cynthia Duvall. Cynthia, you have 2 minutes. Tia, if you could, we've got quite a few speakers, so if you could keep us at 2 minutes each, we appreciate it. Welcome back, Cynthia. Thank you.
Commissioners. So today you see a group of people here that are wearing green to support the voice of community in Cincinnati parks. In pursuit of the Burnett Woods Dog Park project, the board has twice intentionally set aside best practices in community engagement to evade a possible result you might not want. In doing that, you also threw in the trash any good that could have come out of bringing people together to talk about the parks in their communities. When Commissioner North set aside the voice of Clifton, she also set aside the voice of Cuff and Coreyville, the people living directly next to Burnett Woods. You see students and park volunteers that have invested thousands of hours of caring for Burnett Woods. This is not what a community building project looks like. If you're not doing community engagement because you fear the results, then you're acknowledging that you're putting an agenda that has nothing to do with community first. And that you're out of step with the community needs. Please do some damage control on the reputation of this board, especially as we have members leaving us that have been part of this project. Set aside the Burnett Woods Dog Park decision and begin following an inclusive, equitable, and consistent process in this discussion for the community voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. And now we've got Anita Buck. Welcome back, Anita. Nice to see you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
So last night I was reviewing the materials about the Denor Park dog park, proposed dog park that did not happen. And I was struck by how similar to the Burnett Woods situation, they were blindsided too. The dog park supporters had, come to the parks and put a next door survey up and, all of a sudden they said, oh, we have all the support for a dog park in your front yard, basically. And of course, at the Denor Park, people had the same objections that we at Burnett Woods have. Traffic, noise, dog waste, lots of dog waste. How often is that going to be picked up? We, in addition, have the plastic turf issue and the sensitive woodlands issue and the storm sewer issue with toxins from the turf going into there. But they got community engagement. They got a survey, that was tabulated by area, 55% for a dog park, 45% against. And it was noted that, of course, the further away people were, the more in favor of a dog park they were, the closer, the less in favor they were. So I'm presuming pretty much any survey you might hold would have much the same results. But we did not get community engagement for Burnett Woods. And it would have to be phrased directly for Burnett Woods, because saying, people in general, dog park's a good thing, a dog park in Burnett Woods. Well, I don't know, they're always trying to put stuff in Burnett Woods, and say an AstroTurf dog park in Burnett Woods, for which they would bulldoze up green lawn. And by the way, the taxpayer pays $300,000. I think a lot of people then say, no, my gosh, no. So we would like our opinion, we would like our objections aired. We would like people to hear the real story. We are just closed out. We are very frustrated. We're angry. Dog park people are angry. Everybody's angry. And we just need to be heard. So thank you.
Thank you. And Sherry Frost. Good morning, Sherry.
I'm terrified to be here, and I'm
Don't be.
to speak in public.
We're going to smile back at you.
Dancer. I'm not necessarily a public singer, but I'm here as a mother. My daughter has cerebral palsy, and I don't know if you've seen our events at the bandstand, but we bring a lot of joy to the park. She can't get up the stairs at the bandstand without help. My mother was wheelchair bound. She was a musician as well. can't get on this bandstand. I'm gonna try not to cry. If you can imagine standing on a ladder, painting the ceiling while the water is dripping in your face, it makes no sense to me why this dog park is taking precedence over existing structures that need accessibility. I can't get my daughter down the stairs at Trailside to the nature center because the stairs are so steep and there's no way to get her down there. Could you please just prioritize what we already have over a want, not a need? Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Mario O'Connell,
Mary Jo.
Mary Jo, I'm sorry.
No problem. I do want to thank you for this opportunity. And I want to mention with regard to the community engagement piece that Cynthia addressed. Burnett Woods, like Eden Park, is utilized by many people in the whole city. So people in the whole city should have an opportunity for some community engagement. I live in Hyde Park, but I've lived in Clifton for part of my life and of course use Burnett Woods. Still enjoy it for the bird watching. And I question the long-term issues that are going to come with a dog park with artificial turf and the maintenance it's going to require. If you go to any other dog parks, they're pretty trashy and people claim they will clean up, but people do not. And so then that puts a lot on park staff, which I don't really think anyone wants on their job description. And the final point goes back to the point this woman was talking about with regard to accessibility. I just think it's a priority thing. That accessibility to the playground, the bandstand should be a much higher priority than a dog park. I think that's the main things I want to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mackenzie Mason. Mackenzie, nice to see you again.
So good morning, commissioners. My name is Mackenzie Mason. I'm an environmental studies student at the University of Cincinnati. I'm also president of UC Students for Burnett Woods. There's been some misconstruing of the relationship between the dog park development and proposal and UC students' support and involvement. I just wanted to make an official stance once again that UC Students for Burnett Woods is what we hold is that we are strongly opposing this dog park proposed to sit in Burnett Woods. We believe that the reasons that the park board has heard numerous times before, specifically on ecological values and community values and involvement, that the dog park proposal would be harmful to this community, not beneficial. For UC students, Burnett Woods is a space for research, nature bathing, and community building. Over time, I personally have grown to love the space that neighbors our campus. And I and all of UC Students for Burnett Woods would be heartbroken if a decision that didn't directly consult the students, who are a huge stakeholder in this decision, as we make up a very large portion of the community, was made in the development of this park. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mackenzie. Jody.
Still testing.
Yeah, I always trip up on.
Jim and I are neighbors, actually. I live on Brookline Avenue, which leads directly into Burnett Woods. I have volunteered hundreds of hours in Burnett Woods, just help plant 30 trees in there this past weekend. I'm a dog lover, have foster dogs, brought them to our lovely dog parks. But I'm just here to say that I think this is maybe a decent idea if it could lead to an improvement in some space rather than degrading a space that apparently so many people love. I also really since I live right there across the street and I am in the Clifton community and engaged with surrounding communities, the continued proposals to build something in Burnett Woods, I don't think you understand, have divided our community again and again. So it keeps coming down. Were you for the CCAC or against the CCAC? Were you for the CEF or against CEF? And now it comes down to, are you for the dog park or against the dog park? And personally, I am for community. I'm for Burnett Woods. And you know, a park is supposed to be a place where that brings people together, and it has. And I urge you, if you don't go there regularly, please go there. There are people there every day. It is highly activated. My husband walks through there every day to go to work at the University of Cincinnati. There are people playing disc golf. I think maybe proposing a dog park has brought more people with dogs into the park, which is wonderful to see. I mean, the space that you're talking about, building a park now, is wholly accessible to everybody. Like I feel like building a fence in that area, you are and putting down this artificial, forever chemical, you know, carpet of turf is just a really bad idea, and it is going to exclude, you know, some humans from that space, people who are afraid of dogs, and yeah, I just don't get it. I don't understand why you didn't just say that's not a good idea.
Thank you,
Thank
Jody.
you.
And Kate Kern.
Good morning, commissioners, and it is a lovely morning. I'm
It is.
excited to be able to come to Eden Park, even if we have to be inside. So 2 minutes, I have two things, so I'm gonna look at my little cheat sheet so I get it all. I'm here from Kennedy Heights community, a longtime parks volunteer, specifically with Kennedy Heights Park. And just want to say we are very excited about developments that are happening there. We've had Jason out there. We've had Drew out there. The conservation efforts are fantastic. We're doing wildflower restoration, which is near and dear to my heart. So just want to, and I just would love to name every single staff person. They're all fantastic people. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Number two, I'm here to support Burnett Woods with their issue. And I feel like that our park is way smaller, but we have similar kinds of that people don't understand that it is a park. They think it's empty and something should be put there. It is a park. We need to enhance what is there, not put something there. So I'm here for Burnett Woods as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Kate. And Cynthia McCarthy.
Hi.
Good morning.
Thank you. My name is Cynthia McCarthy. I'm a recently retired city employee. I worked for the health department as an environmental health specialist, and I'm here to speak on behalf of Burnett Woods. I actually live in Westwood, but I worked at the health department there at Burnett and King, walked through Burnett Woods at least weekly, if not daily. And it's just such a gem. It's a place of nature right in the middle of the city, right in the middle of all this concrete. It's degrees cooler when you walk in there off the sidewalk, and it's peaceful and the birds are singing. And I love dogs. I love community. I love green space. But the Westwood Dog Park, I see almost every day, and almost every day there's poop on the ground there. It's almost impossible to pick it up off of that green astroturf. It's kind of like carpet, trying to like pick up poop off of carpet. I use the Clifton Library just about weekly. Next door to the Clifton Library, there's a healing center that I also use just about weekly. And I think the parking is going to be an issue. I think the noise from a dog park will be an issue for those two places. And I echo everything else everyone else has said. Here we are in a climate crisis. We're watching the bird populations drop. We're watching the insect populations drop, the beneficial insects. And just covering any area that's already green space just feels like a tragedy to me. And as they've said, people can bring their dogs there now. They could gather with their dogs there. They could set up their pop-up in the paved area there at Burnett Woods. I don't see why we need to create something in addition to what's already available that will actually degrade what's present. And it's undoable. Half of Burnett Woods was already given away or sold to UC some years ago. There's just a finite amount of this left. And you know that as the park board, that any green space that gets taken away doesn't come back. And once it's gone, it's gone.
Great.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I appreciate all the comments. I appreciate all of you being here. And as you know, this has been over 3 years now. And I know that it's been publicized on television, newspapers. It's been on most of your websites for a couple of years at least. So we appreciate continuing to hear from you and your input. The issue in my mind is not that we're not hearing you. We hear you. We got the 345 pages of comments that came in over the week. We listen, we read them, we hear you. We understand your concerns. We also want to say that all of us sitting up here, we love Burnett Woods. We love all of our parks and we support green space. And we would never do anything to one of our parks that is going to degrade the parks. Now, everyone's not going to agree on what that means. There is no right, wrong. There is no black, white. We all are trying to make decisions on behalf of the parks and on behalf of all the citizens in Cincinnati. And I think you'll see throughout our parks, that's why we're number 4 rated in the country. That's why we hear from the people from Pleasant Ridge that the parks are beautiful. If you walk through our parks today, they're beautiful. Our staff is an incredible staff. We wouldn't be ranked where we are in the country as far as our park system is if it wasn't for the quality of our staff and the quality of the people that love and take care of all of our parks. We would never do anything to any of our parks that would degrade the parks. I think you will see that we just have a difference of agreement, it sounds like, on the fact pattern. I think we have a difference of agreement on what would degrade or what would not degrade. I think as we've heard from many of you, we also hear every week from people who support a dog park for the building of community, for the good that it will bring to the community. So from that standpoint, I would just ask that the discourse does not become personal. All of us sitting up here are residents of Cincinnati. We love our parks. We all are neighbors of parks. And it's nothing personal. We are making decisions that we think are good for the whole citizens of Cincinnati. And we think what we are doing is making our parks beautiful. And we are spending, and you'll hear about today, if you stay for our meeting, you'll hear about the things that we are doing to really go out and address the infrastructure needs of our parks. We had a press release this week. We spent $400,000 just to repair and reopen public parks, restrooms in our parks. We have, through the direction of our director, Jason Barron, and with Joel Gross and our planning department, they have a list of everything that is needed to be done in all our parks, and we're knocking them out. We are addressing them, but we can walk and chew gum at the same time. At the same time that we are maintaining and preserving our parks infrastructure, we have to continue to make them welcoming to the community. We want to make them continue to be what the citizens of Cincinnati want. And I understand all citizens are not going to agree on what amenities we want in our park. That's why the 5 of us have to sit up here, and that's why we want to sit up here. And that's why we have to be the ones to make decisions for the good of the whole park board system and for all the citizens of Cincinnati as well as the region. So we very much appreciate your input. We have heard it for well over 2 years. We've addressed those things, and our staff, I think, has done a great job in looking at the different issues that you've brought up. I think you can find on our website some issues that have been addressed. And I think you'll see that when the dog park is built, it's going to be a beautiful park, just like the dog park in Westwood, just like the dog park that we have at Washington Park, just like the dog parks that you see around the country that are beautiful parks. And this one will be the same thing. It will be a beautiful addition to Burnett Woods and to our park system overall. So again, thank you all for being here. I know you're all passionate about parks, just like we are up here. This is why we volunteer to do the good things for parks. It's because we have a passion for parks. So I just want you to all know that you've been heard. We hear there has been plenty of engagement. There's a difference of opinion on what is engagement. We haven't held a meeting at the rec center lately to just let everybody yell at each other, but we have engaged. We have got your input. We have heard you. We know your concerns, and I can guarantee you it's going to be a beautiful dog park when it's finished. And I think you'll see that it's been done well and with the expertise that we have in our staff. So thank you very much for being here. And you're all welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting to hear about the great things that are happening in Cincinnati parks. The next thing on our agenda is our quarterly update from the police department. Captain Swingley, we always are happy to have you here. When it's on a scheduled basis and not on an emergency situation, so thank you.
Morning, Commissioners. Again, I'm Captain Dennis Swingley. I'm the commander of the Special Services Section and the liaison to the City Parks Board. I'm here today to give the police stats on city parks for the first quarter of 2023. So just for the public, for this process, we look at reactive calls for service, 911 calls, offense reports, arrests, and directed patrols, which are officers spending time in the parks. So based on these rankings of 911 calls, that's where we rank our parks. So overall, citywide calls for service showed an increase of 6.3% year to date from 2022 compared to 2023. City parks showed an increase of 16.6% compared to 22 to 23. Looking at calls for service compared to last quarter, fourth quarter of 2022 to this quarter, it showed a 12.2 decrease. This is likely due to fall and winter months lack of activity in the parks. So the top 3 of the top 10 parks for the first quarter are Waterfront Park with 64 calls for service, Mount Airy or Forest with 57 calls for service, and Eden Park with 51 calls for service. The rest of the top 10 had 30 or less calls for service. So out of the 626 calls for service for first quarter, the top 3 types calls for service are 911 calls where they can't really code either way, followed by hazardous calls and calls that result in investigations. So based on this activity, directed patrols have increased by 36% throughout the parks. There have been 16 offense reports recorded in the first quarter, along with 40 arrests. Ball Park had the most offense reported, and theft continues to be the most reported offense in our city parks, followed by criminal damaging. So please do not leave valuables visible in your car and keep your cars locked. The majority of the arrests occurred in Eden Park with 34. When reviewing these types of arrests, there's quite a few involving weapons and drugs. So this is very serious. We ask the public to continue to call 911 when they see this type of activity, so we can respond and take the appropriate action. And finally, I've been in discussions with Deputy Director Jenny Mobley. We're planning a meeting with all the police district representatives so we can discuss common concerns for this start of the year and just work together to make the parks as safe as possible. This completes my presentation. Are there any questions?
Mr. President, I have a question. Just wondering how to interpret the numbers on offenses and arrests. Are those additive? I thought an offense had to happen in order for an arrest to happen. So if the arrest number is higher, I just didn't understand that.
So offense is like criminal damaging. You come back to your car and it's broken.
Got it.
And there's no suspects. We just make a report. Arrest or 911 call, we respond, and the car with the person with the gun or drugs, we see them and we make an arrest and take them to jail.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Sir. Yes, ma'am.
Eden Park, let's discuss Eden Park and the number of incidents that are happening there. Are you considering, especially on the weekends, having a police officer there more times than not?
Well, I've talked.
In order to. Okay.
So Captain Mark Burns is the commander of District 4. He's aware of those issues, and he has increased directed patrols in the Eden Park area, which increased the number of arrests because police are in the area. So yes, ma'am, there are additional cops hanging out in the park or driving through the park.
Captain, what would you say to us is the biggest concern for you or the police department as it relates to parks, or what can we do to help address that?
just spread the word, and work with the Parks Department to share information, spread the word to create a safe environment. Right? People to call 911 when they see something, say something. We work with the Parks Board to put signs up so that they can see the park rules when they go into the park. And so if somebody sees somebody doing something they shouldn't be, they call 911.
Any other?
I was just wondering, do we have anything on our signs that remind people to not leave valuables visible in their cars? Is there anything? Do we post that at all?
There's signs posted at Friendship Park, I believe, in parking lots. Not really parking at water. I'm speaking for Waterfront Public. Not really. What if we have them in the?
We don't have them at all
Yeah.
parks, but we do have them slightly around.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Captain, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you
Thank
taking
you.
the time today to come by and share with us. Okay, we'll move into a few administrative items. Number one is the approval of our minutes from March 16. Are there any questions, concerns, corrections, additions? Tia has once again done a superb job on our minutes, so thank you, Tia. If no changes, can I have an entertainment motion to?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those are passed. Next, in the month of April, we always do administrative things, so we need to, at this point, elect officers for the year. We typically will elect a president and a vice president. And I will just open up the floor for discussion and your pleasure on this.
What kind of a discussion do you want?
I nominate you for president.
A second.
I'll vote yes for that.
I would be more than happy to accept. Oh, yes, I'd be more than happy to continue with this group for another year. So we have a motion. May I have a motion? Oh, you made a motion?
Yes.
Is there a second? Second.
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Vice President. As we will hear, Linda's term is ending and she is rolling off the board. So we need a vice president.
I would propose Molly North.
I would love to. I will
I
second
will
that.
second that.
You will second.
that.
Any other discussion? Is there an acceptance?
I accept.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, Molly.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Jen.
that. You've got big shoes to fill here though with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the last thing, we have a policy statement that regards approval and advice requirements. What this does is it helps bring clarity to the role of the director. Basically, what this says is that as a park board, we are giving our director full authority and approval to manage, run, and be the total control of the park board. And what we have said is, except on these things, these are the things that we would like to retain park board approval before they happen, such as amending our bylaws. And most of these are pretty straightforward. As we just did, the election of park board officers, or to hire and terminate our director. We don't leave that up to the director himself or herself. So with that being said, I personally, there's no burning issue in my mind related to these policies or these approval levels at this time. I think for governance purposes, it's always good to pull these out and just run by them as a board, and also to bounce them off of our director. Jason's now been here a few months. So he now has some experience with these things. So we've put them out for us to take a look at again this year, just to modify, change, and then once again approve. I will go through some things that Jason has proposed to us. We've changed some wording, some things like the plan of work on number 10, instead of an annual budget or an annual business plan, we're now referring to it as a plan of work. So in 10 and 11, we changed that. I wanted to bring up number 13. Right now, we have modify approved commissioners fund budget by greater than $5,000. Jason is comfortable with that 5,000. I just wanted to see if there was anyone that might have issue with the $5,000 threshold. If not, we can look at then number 16. We are changing, it says enter into any memorandum of understanding, operating or management agreement other than agreements with a term or other agreements with a term exceeding 12 months. We do a lot of memorandums of understanding for other city agencies, such as MSD to come on to the property to do some repairs, or DOTE may have to do some things. So Jason has proposed, and it's extremely in keeping with what I think our desires are, to exclude from that any interagency city agreements to ensure continued services and routine park maintenance. I think that's, in my opinion, it makes a lot of sense. Please jump in if there's anything here as I'm talking. Number 18, we've changed number 18 to change organizational structure or add senior level positions. The old policy said to add new park employee positions. So rather than getting into weeds as far as maintenance workers or others, we have changed that to change the organizational structure itself or to add senior level positions. And I think that does then rise to the level.
Are we clear on what senior level position definition is?
So, in my mind, this would be direct reports to the
you.
director, correct?
Okay.
But I do have a question on that, just for clarification. This is related to something we'll get to later, but it was in the presentation to, I think, the budget committee, where there was an organization chart in that presentation, and it did not list the deputy director. And I just wondered about that. And that just spurred the thought on that as we were discussing adding senior level positions.
See, that organizational chart wasn't about positions as much as functions. So it had the 5 kind of functions that all happen to have a division manager in charge of them.
Sure.
But then the deputy director Mobley is in charge of, she's also the division manager of operations.
Yeah.
So in a different world, right, there could be a deputy director that's in charge of finance or a deputy director that's in charge of planning and design. But in this case, so I think that's how that one plays out. What we requested by the finance committee wasn't our organizational chart of people, it was our organizational chart of functions.
Yes, I get that. It just seemed odd to me.
Gotcha.
Since that is a very important position that we added. I just was wondering why it wasn't called out in that. I think I understand what you're saying, but I just wondered about.
We can definitely add that to the graphic. That's a good tip.
Great, thank you.
Along that line, it might be good, sitting here, I don't know that I know what the organizational structure is completely. So it might be a good thing to recirculate to us just so that we have, here's the existing structure of the park board, since we will be asked to approve any changes to that actual structure. Thank you, Linda. The next, number 21, we've, in the past, it just said submit a grant request. And I think Jason has really nailed this one as well. Submit a grant request that is outside of existing scope of park services, or that has future ongoing financial requirements. I think this nails what we're looking for, just something that's a little bit different than just ongoing operational needs. We have moved down to Board of Commissioners must approve the concept. We used to have number 2 up in the must do, and just for timing and being sure that we're not tying the director's hands. I'm sorry, it's number 1 below. We've added the wording and we've moved it down to advise, but we've just put in the bottom there, advise in advance of action. There's times that he's got to make some under very difficult situations, if it's something that requires action pretty quickly, rather than calling a special board meeting. He'd like to inform us about it, but not be bound by us having to officially approve some action in this for those who report directly to him. The next one, as far as we've added the wording as well, just for clarity and to sort of bring it up to a higher level of governance, hire, fire, promote, or demote personnel in a supervisory role, not directly reporting to the director. So that one is similar to the one before, but the one before needs to happen in advance of pulling the trigger. And then the last one, back when we adopted a policy where we delegated to the director approving the waiver of fees, at that time, part of that policy said that they would inform the park board of all of those that have been forgiven or waived. And we haven't been getting that lately, nor is it that critical that we get
I
that.
thought it was supposed to be in a quarterly basis.
It was supposed to be on a quarterly basis. So now that's another reason to go through these periodically, is just so we all remember what are the things that we've asked for, and make sure it's something we still want to see. We have added, though, a threshold there as well to $2,000. You know, if there's a group that's doing something on a Sunday afternoon and there's a $200 permit fee, and it's a church organization that is right next door to the park, the director can just approve the waiving of that fee. Something over $2,000, we thought, okay, that's something that we'd at least like to know about. So that's why we've increased that threshold, just to make it a little bit more higher level that we would need to be involved. With that, are there any other items that you see in this that you would like to amend or change or add or subtract?
I think this is great. The only thing that came to mind for me is that relates to engaging an accounting auditor, external legal firm. I wonder if we should or could add, consulting firms related to organizational stuff. Pick the words for it. Where I'm going with this is, within the past couple of years, the former park director engaged a strategic planning consultant. This is really, in my mind, board level activity and something that we should be involved in the selection process. So minor addition, but I think we would want to be engaged in that.
How about if we add, or any consultant outside the normal operating, whatever the words were we used here before, outside the scope of existing park services or something like that?
That makes sense.
Does that make sense?
For engaging consultants for project design and.
Exactly.
We don't want to be involved in that. But.
Right. Jason, is that clear? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. So with that one change, if we will add to number 12. Can I will entertain a motion if it's our intent to accept this, and
So moved.
and is there a second? Second. Move it in second. Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I just want to go on record and thank Jason. We are very comfortable with the rapport that you've established and your transparency, and we appreciate it. And again, reviewing of these is only for an annual review for good governance reasons. And thank you for the work you're doing as far as this area. With that, we'll move to our next information updates and planning and design. Director, do you want to introduce?
Vision Manager Joel Gross joined us at the table. Got a lot of exciting stuff to talk about. I think this might be my 8th meeting. We've approved a lot of projects for the last couple of months, and Joel and his team are acting about and encourage anybody that gets a chance to get out to California Woods. Those will tell you the details of it and the science behind it. I encourage you to get out, see that wall, it's going up. Because it looks just really interesting. I was lucky enough to be out there for when they laid the first stone. And it's really neat to see how that's going to reshape and armor that river. It's really cool.
Well, Jason, we appreciate the detailed report that you give us and want to give you the opportunity to highlight whatever you want to highlight for us or express to us how we can help you. Continue to knock it out.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll try to keep, there's a lot. I know this is 4.5 or 5 pages long this month. There's a lot of good stuff going on. So I'll try to keep them pretty quick, but if you have questions about any specific project, just interrupt me and I will be happy to answer them. This one is a construction project that's kicking off. You've heard about a few times. You approved money for this at the special March meeting. This is the Alm sanitary sewer. Queen City Mechanical is on site as of Monday, doing the locates. They ran the sanitary sewer that's existing right next to the water main, so they're being very careful not to interfere with that as they bore this new line in. We expect them to put most of the sanitary in next week. We met on site with Dave Buttel's team and Andy's team yesterday just to talk about the connections into the building. So with everything that's going on, that will be back in service this summer. Once the folks are doing the big lines, when they're done doing the big lines, Andy's team will come in and help finalize some of the fixtures and plumbing, and we'll move on. That one will be back open.
A bathroom that's been down for 3 years needs quite a cleanup. Once you get the sanitary sewer working, you want to get in there and really make sure you bring it back up to
A
stuff.
deep cleaning, so to speak.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 years is a long time to have a
Just a quick note on one project in Burnett Woods. As you all know, we were taking out 2 swing sets, one down by Trailside, one up by the Millionaires Club or the older area of the park. Both of those have been done, reseeded and restored. So that project is complete. California Woods is, yes, ma'am.
One, please. I think you updated us last month, but would you remind me about the steps?
Yes, ma'am. So as of February, we actually have, for the first time ever, 2 masonry contractors that can bid on that kind of stuff. As you know, there was a backlog of masonry stuff. We've got a couple of them done. One of our main contacts switched their organizational chart. So we were essentially waiting until they were re-registered as a city vendor. Now we have 2 of those and they're quoting those for repair this summer. That will be, we have 2 actually masonry contracts where we never had any before. So we will have those fixed this summer. It's next on the priority list as soon as the sinkholes are fixed.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. California Woods, as the director alluded to, Tia, could you get there? If you could look at the screen right now, that's the older pictures that was the beginning of the week last week, just to let you know, they're down in the creek, getting the base ready right there to put in the big wall that's gonna ensure we're not losing our access off of Kellogg Road. So that was a week and a half ago.
Note how close that is to the road. You can see the mountains there. But note how close that hillside is to the road.
Yeah, they did no excavating on that hillside. That was just sloughing off. Jason and I were out there 3 weeks ago, maybe after a couple big storms, and there was a 3 foot by 3 foot chunk that just slid off of the hill on further down. So couldn't have timed this one any better. We certainly couldn't have waited much longer. So there it is as it looks yesterday. Almost done, as you can see. Yeah,
Unbelievable.
it's not going anywhere. I promise you that. A little bit overbuilt, but it's a lot of water that rolls through there. When you get a 90-degree turn in a storm like that close to the river, there's just so much water. So each one of those stones weighs like 2,600 or 2,700 pounds, like Legos. And they just stack on top of each other. You put a good drainable base underneath of them and make sure it's level, and then you just start stacking them. And they stack 2 at a time. So you got essentially 5,000 pounds before they even move up a course and move back 16 inches. So that whole hillside now is armored 70 feet essentially. As you can see in this corner where she's got the picture right now, that's where water would enter that 90-degree turn. And as you can see, we whip it back out so that it's going to protect even farther than we're armoring, because we're redirecting the water away from the existing slope. So it'll help even farther downstream. As you all know, we're doing a bigger project. This is a Band-Aid for a much, much bigger project that we hope the soils here are just conducive to erosion. And as our storms intensify, we're gonna have to do more. So
Is this system specifically for water, or is this a retaining wall system that can be applied and is any conditions?
it's a great question, Molly. And the answer is yes, it is a retaining wall. It's thick enough and good enough and drains enough that we can use it underwater like we are in this situation. But no, it's just essentially a retaining wall. And absolutely, you can use it in other applications.
You know, I'll interject here. You've got a lot to cover, but this is a prime example that is so refreshing to us sitting here that it's a real need, you know, and that's a key part for us, California Woods. And if you didn't do something like this, we wouldn't have access, main access.
That's right.
Off Kellogg. And the fact that you recognize it, came up with the solution, and we actually see it there in a short period of time. Kudos to you and your team for getting this started and near completion.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Yeah, we coordinated with Gia, the naturalist that runs California Woods, to get a woodland mix to go back on top. You'll see we actually added probably 10 feet of flat surface between the edge of the wall now back in. We're going to ensure that we have bollards no farther than 8 feet apart there and double rope out onto the road so no one can stop and sit there. And then it also retracts from people going out to sit on the wall or whatever. And we really don't want to put a fence right on top of the wall. It's rated to do so. But in my mind, it's less safe to have a fence right on top of that wall because you're going to have people climbing over and then they essentially only got a 6-inch edge to stand on. So putting that fence back at the road, we're certainly within our rights to do so. And I think that's the best solution here to keep in keeping with the way the park is already set up. So that should be complete next week. Everything should be done on that one. Eden Park, Fulton Comfort Station, as you're all pretty much aware, there was a press conference on Monday to say that one is back open. Everything is complete. Picture there just shows the problem. If you wanted to see what it was, you can see how close we were to the stanchion there, those historic stanchions. And for a 4 or 5 hour period, we were all kind of worried. So while that was opened up, we had the contractor on site televise everything to make sure everything worked. Thanks to Andy and Kevin and their team for jumping in and helping with that stuff in real time. We appreciate that. Bottom picture is the fix. They ran a whole new line from that point there all the way out and into the manhole. You can see the patches in the road. I thought they did a great job. Many thanks to Bruce and their team for getting that stuff done. The Megan folks, they were really, really good and they were minimal impacts to traffic from what I know. So that one's open and operational. Lars Anderson is one we've talked about in the past couple months. That is a berm where we're doing some stormwater improvements. That is substantially complete as well. Oh, did I miss one? Ezra Charles, just an update on that one. The lighting, as you may or may not remember, was one step that wasn't complete. They were backlogged on those canisters that sit down inside of those lights. They're in, as you can see, the permit is closed out. All the electrical work is done. Just wanted to give you all an update and show you a cool picture of it lit up at night.
That looks really good.
Yeah.
Thanks again to our Friends.
Yes,
Foundation.
yeah, absolutely.
But let it be noted in the record.
Yes.
Thanks to the foundation for
Yes.
helping us with this great project.
Absolutely. This is Lars Anderson, and this is a picture from about a week and a half ago. So as we talked a little bit, there's a lot of stormwater issues out here. A lot of property runs down to this edge. And this is essentially building in a berm so that we can hold water for about 24 hours and let it out really, really slowly, essentially acting in a detention basin. So what you see there, and Tia's got in her email, is the picture from yesterday. That little spot right there collects all the water at the low flow point, doesn't allow a big septic area, drains everything down to nothing. And we'll massage that as Dave's team comes in to get it seeded. That's the only thing that's remaining as of yesterday. We held a whole lot of water as the berm was being built before everything was done. So it's certainly working. Between that and SMU fixing the intake that's upstream of this, that park is getting a lot of attention and fixing some big stormwater issues. So thanks to Tim Davidson specifically at MSD for helping with the calculations on that. It's nice to have those guys on our side, and they're really helping us with some of the finer details of this stuff.
So Jason, where it collects there, where does water go? Is that?
We'll go through there. There's a 6-inch low flow pipe, I'll call it, right where that rock is. Yeah, go to the next picture that shows the water in front of it. I think it's the very next one in the packet. Yep. So look right there. That's after a big rain during construction, so it looks even better now. But instead of all that water going down into the house right next to us and flooding his garage, we hold it now. We can hold all of that. And then after 24 hours, it'll low flow, and probably not even 24 hours. That's a pretty huge storm we had for here. So less than 6 hours, it lets it drain so our guys can mow it still.
Great.
But it allows us not to inundate the house below us. So that was essentially the initial problem. Between those two fixes, I'm stormwater can get expensive really quick when you start doing things like this. So guys like me do the most obvious thing first that we know is going to have the biggest impact for the least money and work from there to see if there's still a problem. If there is, we'll move forward with talk about even creating more detention up above, but we'll see how this acts over the summer and move on from there. So that's Lars Anderson. Idle Park renovation, lots of stuff going on. The fountain box is getting located right now. So the middle of the fountain, all that stuff is happening. The graphics that you see on the screen right now are an update on what I brought to you last month. This is the 4th Street stuff that we want to do, the additional lighting, additional sidewalks, all the signalizations that's required to power those lights. So I've just put some graphics in here so you can see what that scope entails for this change order. Tia, go to the next one. I think there's a picture that shows kind of Chris had laid out that's got all, there you go. This kind of shows an overview of what they're going to do, the things that are going to go in, new sidewalk, new lighting. Tia, if you keep going, we even show the type of light that they're putting in so you can see those LEDs. Just an overview of the things that they're doing under that change order. So an update on funding for that. Thanks to Chris McGee and Jason, we've coordinated with DOTE, 2 different departments, Angie Strunk's department and Ryan Kirk's department, which is signalization. The DOTE has agreed to pay $130,000 of these upgrades. Jason and Chris talked with Western and Southern, and verbally they agreed to pay up to half of the cost of this, which is about $158,000. The total change order is $316,000. So all that the park board would be responsible for allowing us to do is use $28,000 out of our existing contingency that's already built into the project, and we can get this work done. If you all are okay with that, it's not an action item. I don't think we need an action item. It just allows me to create a change order to add this to the project.
We're still waiting on the confirmation from Western Southern.
Yes.
They were really excited about it. In fact, they were.
Really like the land.
Don't they look?
They're similar to the ones that are on High Street.
So
They're nice.
Yeah.
So we're hopeful that they'll want to partner with us on this. And then if we use, we have about 300,000 is our contingency. So far, we've used in the neighborhood of
70. It's about 70 with everything underground. A lot of stuff has happened this month, but we were expecting some of those things.
We still have about 230 left.
Yep.
And if we use about 30 of this to make it a 50-50 project between Western Southern and the city, then we would still have about 200,000 left, which Chris and the folks at
Bruce,
so many contractors, the people of Bruce are looking at trying to reserve as much as we can to make some improvements to the conversation at the end. So once we know that we don't have any major problems, that's our hope is at the end to be able to add that in as an additional upgrade.
Did you say comfort station?
Correct.
So that was not,
currently in the scope.
It's not.
Like these lights, those items were kind of pulled back in order to, because the project was escalating in cost.
Sure.
So our hope is to be able to continue to do some improvements and.
that would be good.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's needed.
yes, ma'am.
Joel, this is another example. That's a great, whoever selected that. I mean, that's great.
Those are in keeping with the ones that are just farther down forward. So
Mhm.
yes, so that's a DOT's kind of standard fancy light, we think, for the city. They're really cool. I like them too. They're just a good addition to that area and in keeping with that area for sure. So thank you. Special thanks to Chris McGee for keeping that project going. He's doing all of this. I'm just reporting on it. So everything's going well with that. Natural Resource Management Facility at Ludlow. Mobilization has already begun for that. Contractors are already in cleaning out the ceiling, cleaning up the tile and getting that building renovated and demolished and ready for new stuff to go back in. A couple days ago, Chris and I walked it for a minute, got to see up into the ceiling. It's in great shape. We were kind of worried about having to use a little bit of contingency for some rot up in there, but the parts that we've seen through areas just like that indicate that everything up above is in pretty good shape. So everything is going well there. Construction continues. They'll be done by December 1st or before. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a lot of wiring up in there too?
Absolutely.
And all of that is in good shape? Or are you redoing all of that?
The wiring for the electrical is in the scope to redo.
Good, okay.
Also, and because it was a police station, they had 7,000 Cat 5 cables running through there. So we don't need all of that, but
Yeah.
Gene, our IT department is working with the city ETS to ensure all that stuff is up and running, taking out the things that the police needed and returning that to them. But we still have all the infrastructure to run all of our internet in there. They're doing that in the city outside of the scope. And that was planned. So Yes, ma'am. All the electrical is getting redone, but not the, as long, along with the HVAC and a lot of the plumbing, things like that. Let's see. Glenview Park, this is a bollard project. It's next on Adlita's list. They're out at California Woods right now. They're moving back towards this and pickleball in May. So that'll be next on the list, just installing 6 bollards across the top so people don't somehow hit that curve at 90 miles an hour, fly off the west side of Cincinnati. That's wild to me. Smale Anniversary Garden. This one is almost complete as well. Allison Landscaping was there a couple weeks ago. This is the one where we're redoing all the irrigation. The copper lines had failed. They were 25 years old and just rotten pretty much. So Allison's come in all the way back to the meter, directional drilled, and replaced the concrete up past the bridge piers. And they trenched up to get to the 3rd Murdoch box. So all of that is done and operational. Sarah was using it yesterday. There's 3 Murdoch boxes. Andy has ordered those and they're about a 6-week lead time. And Allison will come back and put those in. That's their connections for water, which is the whole point of this, is to not make them have a watering truck up on top of the road and have to water this by hand. So even though those Murdoch boxes aren't in, the contractor was nice enough to wire a hose bib for Sarah. So she's on cloud 9 already because it's already working. It'll just get better in the next few weeks as that wraps up. That one's 95.
Thank you for paying attention to this. This had slipped through the cracks. This part had slipped through the cracks.
Welcome. They were planting flowers 2 days ago. She's got it looking beautiful already. So you're very welcome. I like that place too. It's a cool place. Our nursery, this was, we were repairing some damaged asphalt on the outside of the fence and right in front of the garage. Both of those are done. They didn't use any of the contingency on that project. Couple pictures there. There's your new slab, which will allow for dumpsters without tearing everything up. And then on the inside of the building for the next picture, which is not the greatest picture, but you can see the new brighter slab underneath the doors there. That's all the fixed spot there was a 12-inch hole with a 2-foot void underneath that. You couldn't bring a vehicle anywhere near that. So now they can utilize that shop again with vehicles and things like that. So both of those are done, waiting on a final invoice to take it off of the project tracker. That kind of concludes our current construction stuff. What we're working on next and what the next immediate needs seem to be in alphabetical order are Avon Woods. This is a project that's had some pavement repairs that are needed for a couple years. We're just looking into that now. I haven't even been out to look at that, but Jennifer Harton has done a good job of putting together a list for me of things that we've got to do. So I'm going to meet with her hopefully this month, get that project. And there's also a leak out there in the roof of the building. So Chris is going to work on that. We may have to do 2 different contracts to get that up to snuff, but maintenance projects that Matt Schiller will be working on for me next. Burnett Woods, a few more things on Burnett Woods. Jason and I are certainly talking all the time with MSD. Jason's had a couple meetings with the director of MSD, and I'm working on things with the stormwater guys to talk about how to permanently fix some of the big issues at Burnett Woods. This is the big picture project, Jim, walking and chewing gum at the same time. I've seen reports over the past 10 years of the overflows. I've studied this enough to know there's an issue here. We've been talking with MSD. They're working towards getting their priorities in order for their next 10-year update right now. And we're hoping to piggyback onto some of that, help them do some of that work so that we can maybe move up the priority list. We do some of the design for them. Maybe they'll be apt to pay for some of these things when we're solving a problem for them. So another example of us trying to work together with other departments to get things done. The masonry stairs commissioner asked about, these are in slate to be quoted this summer. We just haven't got to quoting them yet. As I said, we have 2-term contracts that we now have the ability to at least fix them. So it's on our list for masonry things. We probably have 5 or 6 projects this summer that'll be masonry repairs around including this building. Actually, there's a wall that needs replaced here. So we'll be getting to those this summer. Here's the first action item on the list. I have 2 this month. This is for Burnett Woods to fix all of the sinkholes. As you know, this spring, every single month, it seems like there's been another one, and we've been out to look at all those. We've talked to several people about them, but we had Rack and Ballard quote this for us under their term contract to fix all of them that we know of right now. Bruce fixed one down below near the swing set because they were in there taking those out. So they've already fixed that one. There's 3 other areas where they are. We've documented them here on that, and you guys have seen those before. I'm coming to you asking for $60,000 $51,650 of that is Rack and Ballard's quote to fix all of these. That includes televising the lines, ensuring there's no other infiltration points, so we know we're fixing the problems, and then repairing the manholes, fixing a whole lot of grade issues with those things to repair some of these infiltration issues that are causing the sinkholes. So I'm asking the board to approve a allotment of $60,000. That's a $8,350 contingency in case they run into stuff, which in this project they may certainly. So
Let's stop and address that. Are there further questions on this or comments or discussion on approval of this?
No, go for it.
Absolutely.
Seems like a need.
awesome. We'll have them in there as soon as we can get funds certified. Thank you for that. Yep.
Mr. President, if I could ask for a vote to.
Yes.
Authorize.
May I have may I have a motion, please?
So moved.
And second, great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Can we pause on Burnett Woods? I mean, it really is a popular park, for this park board. I just wonder, we've talked before about the opportunity to return some of the asphalt in Burnett Woods to nature.
Yes, ma'am.
There's so much asphalt in that park. I mean, I'd like to see what the percentage of asphalt is in that park. It's high.
You're
And
100%.
it's unused, it's unneeded. I just, when we get to some of these bigger projects and prioritization, when and how can we consider that an opportunity? This does affect stormwater significantly.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
talked about a couple of meetings ago.
I feel like one of the major hurdles, and I don't even know if it's a hurdle, but knowing UC and having went down there myself and tried to park for 5 years, parking along the areas where I'd like to do road diets for sure to bring that in may be a logistical issue. Like there's a couple places certainly on the Martin Luther King side
Sure.
going down that I'd like to cut that down to 12 feet, just the best 12 feet of the pavement, taking out 2/3 of the width of that we don't use anymore. And next to that, if the topography makes sense, either put some underground storage in that spot so that we can retain a lot of the stormwater upstream of where it's impacting the trail side and the areas down below. So I 100% agree. Like I was talking about with Lars Anderson, Molly, I'm hoping that some of the folks from MSD will help us, and I know they will, model this the way I want to model it and see where the biggest impacts to those stormwater reclamations can be. And that will then in turn help us convince MSD essentially to help pay for some of these things because we're taking something off of their plate. That's what I want to do. I think we've got the team to do that, and I will keep after that. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, I believe our
Don't worry about.
2007 master plan, which is the old now,
Yes,
considered that, and the master plan that's in there for Burnett Woods, it's pretty compelling.
yes. I'm reading a lot of that stuff. Yes, ma'am.
Joel, the bandstand at Burnett Woods, is that on your list to make that accessible?
It's not required to be. Chris McChrist this morning, he was listening to some of those comments. He said it's not required to be. We probably can do it if we want to do, but it's not a maintenance issue that's, it's not at the absolute top of the list yet. If that is something that the community wants us to do, we will certainly look into doing that, but it doesn't have to be per se. We offer a lot of amenities. There's several places, the Millionaires Club, those bathrooms, many of those we made accessible very recently, and we're trying to do that wherever we can. It just hasn't risen to the top of the list yet.
Is the Washington Park bandstand accessible?
Is the bandstand accessible? I don't think it is. Because from the roof, I don't think it is because you have to go up all the steps.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it's the backside either.
I can imagine it's not easy to make those accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're very.
Yeah.
Sure.
with the
Okay.
design, yeah.
Any other questions on that one or discussion you want to talk about?
There's been consistent comments about just getting up to that area if you're pushing a stroller. Do you know what that is about?
You have to try to run up the hill.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's not easy either.
Right.
Commissioner, I believe, so I'm not great on my history here, but what I believe is that there might still be some debate in the community about whether or not that was the best spot for the playground. But that was a decision that was made several years ago that was where the new playground was
Yeah.
installed. And I think
Okay.
there are some people that still wish it might have been installed somewhere else.
Because of that.
I'm not
Yeah.
positive of that, obviously that predates me.
Well,
But I believe that might be what it's about, but it certainly is something we can, just like with the bandstand, it's something, and as we look at accessibility system wide, it's something we can kind of look at.
Right.
I don't know if we might need a path with better,
Switch back, yep, so that we can
correct,
revise grade.
with a better grade or what we can do to improve that. But now that the playground is there, we need to
Yeah.
figure out what's the best way to make sure that that is used as much as possible.
Yeah. Great.
Well, and I think just general accessibility, because it's not just the playground, but with the many functions that go on around the bandstand as well, just, and people walk to those, and there's no sidewalk from Clifton Avenue up into the park there, and that's, I think, what the discussion is.
To our broader pavement issue, we've got a lot of pavement right now for cars in that area. But if you want to walk with a stroller, or
Yeah.
a wheelchair, or even just, just by myself, I gotta
Yeah.
walk in the street to go there. And so that's definitely things we need to think about moving forward.
Improvements we want to do, certainly. That's my number one priority at all times is accessibility. I'm a transportation engineer. That's what I've just been programmed into learning how to do. So I appreciate that comment for sure. We can help wherever one is needed. We're going to put them in. We're looking at Glenway to do the same kind of thing, make those playgrounds more accessible. So it's on my mind for sure. And as you feel they need to rise to the top of my list, please let me know and we'll put it there.
When Joel referenced meetings with MSD, Joel is all the time, and whether it's Lars Anderson or other spots. I recently had my first meeting with the director, and we're going to set up a meeting for our two staffs to sit down and kind of have a big picture think on Burnett Woods and how why that's important to us and how we can work with them. Because they have the biggest part of the money when it comes to addressing stormwater and combined sewer overflows. And so we're going to try to make our best case that this is a really important project and a really exciting project for the community and just a huge opportunity. And that we can bring some resources and expertise to the table. And then I personally at least envision that being the opportunity to use that project to then take a look at all of this other pavement and see that as an opportunity to kind of combine those two projects together. So whether we do one first or then the second one, but try to make that the opportunity to rethink that whole area. But we can definitely, as we dig into it, it might be that it can be phased out in different ways. Maybe we can do smaller projects to reopen some space or reclaim some green space. But we'll be thinking about it kind of globally, and then also if we can phase it.
Yeah, very much like why we don't have the steps done yet. It's because some of the sinkholes impact the steps. So I don't want to have people quote them until we fix the front end adjacent to them. I hate that it's taken a long time to do these things. I like to do them more concurrently, but we are trying to prioritize them. The sinkholes are the must. So hopefully we get to this, Molly, this year for sure. We can look at any of those pavement improvements that you want to in any spot. Any other questions on Burnett? All right, do very well. Out Gardens pavement repair. This is a small project that's been in the works for a year or so, right up by the garden center and the stone cottage. There's some spots, next one to you, I think. Just a couple spots that are, the pavement's essentially rubbleized. The Civic Garden Center uses that spot that's hatched there right now, and Sam Settlemeyer has been working with me, is awesome to work with. They have asked that instead of repaving that area, which is rubbleized pretty much right now, that we just turn the millings in place so that it is less reflective. They tend to put all their plants right there, and on blacktop, it just reflects so much heat that it hurts their plants from the bottom. So he's asked that just be rubbleized. I've looked into the environmental impacts of leaving asphalt in place. They do it all the time, and it's widely accepted as same as gravel essentially. So no environmental impacts. The area in the black box is what we're repaving. That's just a cover essentially over what's there, a 2-inch refresh lift, because most of that is busted up just to make all that passable. And between there, see where we're going to put a electrical conduit right below the repair, because we may be able to add lights over to the new hoop house that they're going to place over on the rubbleized asphalt milling. So a small project. It's been funded for 2 years. In fact, we had a DO already for this project that was expired, a work order that was expired. Jane Gideon is working to recertify those funds for use in this. It's still for the same exact purpose. And we hope to have, Adlita has already given us a quote for this. We hope to have that done in the next couple months here. International Friendship Park. This is an update for you all. So after our last meeting, I've written in conjunction with Jason and Waterworks, we've written an update to the city manager. We had a memo that went out to the city manager in May of last year that said our plan for restoring this park. We are essentially at the point where we owed her an update, and we are in the process of delivering that to her right now. As we discussed a little bit last month, our consultants that put together preliminary numbers for this indicated that a traditional design bid build would add another year to this project. we're essentially at the point now where I don't feel, our staff doesn't feel that we need any additional plans to get this done. We have the plans from the beginning. We're not changing a whole lot. My team is putting together documents right now. Essentially, we're going to bid this as construction with a allotment for a design exception if we need anything, but we're already doing all that work. We have a assessment report, so we're pulling that design back in-house. And as long as the city manager signs off on that, we will plan to start bidding this in June. Alex is already working on pulling all of our historic documents in and scanning all of those things. So we're ready to go. And Waterworks will take the lead as they are paying for this with actually putting together the RFP, but we're providing all the supporting documents for them.
I should note that Joel's team taken this design piece in-house and using the historic plans from before in order to inform this RFP and the new construction. It's going to save Waterworks ratepayers significant, several $100,000 by not having to redraw those plans, which is effectively just taking water plans. So it's just another great way that our team's stepping up and doing the best to make the best use of finite resources, whether it's our resources or whether it's our partners at Waterworks.
And just to clarify, the reason we sent the city manager an update was because we had outlined a five-step plan to get this back, where we'd fix the irrigation, where we got an assessment report of the damage, and then move into design. We are deviating from that plan because we're pulling the design essentially back in-house. Just preparation for bid is what we're doing. And going straight to construction instead of spending 6 more months in design when we don't need to do that for this specific case, because we already are essentially putting back exactly what was there.
Well, Joel, this is another example where we really appreciate your leadership on this and finding a way to work within the system to get things accomplished quickly. So thank you. And on top of that, save the taxpayers a couple $100,000. So thank you.
Essentially, it pays for my new employees I've got over the past 2 months. So
If you need
I'm
to,
happy for that. I certainly do, but getting up to speed, getting a little bit of traction.
Joe,
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. This is one just for consistency. See RFP and RFQ.
Here we go.
Both of them?
Yes, I see both of them.
I apologize for that.
Don't get them confused, whatever you do.
I know what I'm writing. We are essentially asking for a request for quotation, and that request for quotation would include an allotment for civil engineering consulting or, architectural landscaping consultant beside, but it's absolutely a quotation where we're asking them for a hard price. So I apologize for that.
Okay, just want to make sure.
So we thought RFQ was a request for qualifications.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yes.
I've heard them 3 different ways.
No,
It's very complex.
It is.
There's also an RFI.
Yes, that's for information, which, yes.
That's a very.
I've heard both requests for quotation and requests for qualifications and requests for proposal.
That's a regulatory RFI, request for information. Q is qualifications and P is proposal.
Yes.
We might need a little, indication at the bottom of.
Sometimes in the second hour of these meetings, I feel like we need an RFC, a request for.
Apologies.
I wouldn't apologize. Let's go for that.
We're absolutely going to ask them for prices.
Absolutely.
Prices.
Yeah, yes,
That's what I told you last time, so I apologize for
We are with you.
yes.
that.
The stickler for me.
Any other questions on international friendship? Awesome. Inwood Park, the drainage repair for the pond, that's complete. I didn't put any pictures in because there's not a whole lot to see with that one. Essentially now they can drain the pond and everything's working the way it should. Jackson Hill Park, this is an update. Last time I told you that we were going to, on the corner of that park, have to take out an old foundation. And looking through and reviewing the information, we've come to find out that that one little parcel on the corner there is not park property. That was never taken or anything. So the DOTE had sent actually Buildings and Inspections sent us something, say it's yours to take care of. We went through the trouble of looking at everything with the DOTE. Mr. DeBona, our GIS specialist, once again, catches things like this and said, hey, man, you shouldn't even be dealing with this. So in any case, this graphic is in there to tell you that it's not your problem and that DOTE is taking it from here and contacting the homeowner that they need to deal with that stuff. So my mistake for bringing it to you last month. But in any case, we don't have to deal with it.
Good.
Natural Resources Management Facilities Deal Road Annex. This is one that we're about at 50% design. We've been, as you know, working towards other pieces with biochar and how that impacts the site. Crystal has been very helpful with us in finalizing where the big pieces are going to go so that we can ensure we're setting ourselves up to do as many sustainable components on the site as possible as we develop that over the next couple of years. We're at the point now where we're finalizing stuff. Chris McGee is reviewing right now and sending back a list of an RFI list, request for information list, where we had 25 questions from the designers. He's sending that stuff back this week with input from our DNR team. We're working towards just finalizing those schematic design plans and getting everything ready so that we can work towards funding. That project's going to be expensive, as we know, and funding is still up in the air in several different places, but we are working through all the design features we can to get that moving as fastly as we can. Any questions on Deal Road? The next one is reporting back on the rest of what we have to do for Ludlow. As we talked about a little bit last time, we were going to take the remaining 4 things that we have to do outside and kind of break them into areas where we could use our contracts to our advantage. We have a stormwater contract, we have a pavement contract, and we can pull those out. So this is one sheet out of each of 4 packages of plans that fix those 4 problems. Package A deals with the stormwater issue. All of the gutters right now are draining into the parking lot, probably 10 foot off of the back of the building. There's a pond. And I understand that last year it was like an ice rink. So that pipe is completely crushed. The first package in there shows fixing that. One more up to you. You see the gray line to the behind the building there. That ties into an existing stormwater line. That's one package that essentially we can fix under one of our stormwater contracts. And we have 4 term contracts that we can choose contractors from to get that done. So we're going to go, we have a price from the designer, a pretty good new price, but I want hard numbers. So we're going to go out for request for proposal for each one of these things. And we will have hard numbers to you to let you know what those are. That one is tracking, each of these are tracking about $100,000 a piece. Just plus or minus $10,000. That's what each one of these 4 packages is. The second one there, you look to the left corner of the building, that grayed out spot right there where Tia's got her mouse, that is a pavement widening, essentially just lining up the curve and lining up the exit onto the road. That will allow tree trucks to not have to maneuver around that building. It's pretty close. We're widening out 15 to 20 feet on the top of that. It's a pretty steep grade, so it's going to be a lot of improvement getting this big trucking and stuff in and out of this place. That's the second package. Number 3 is the fence around the whole facility, including gates on both sides. We initially had those gates as automatic gates. I've had so many problems with auto gates throughout my career that, you know, for the price of putting electric out to those at another $100,000, it makes a whole lot more sense to do those manually when we're going to be in and out of there all the time. So we show here manual gates in both situations, barbed wire around the whole top, so to secure the whole site. That's package 3. And package 4, shown in the back corner of the building, as an outbuilding for storage and mechanical cover, things like that. Pricing these out so that as money and funds become available, we can do them. That would be the last one in all situations that we want to do, just because we have a lot of storage on the inside of that building, and the other 3 are, you know, either safety, lighting issues, or security issues. This is one that, while they need this, and DNR certainly needs that storage space, that may, if we are pressed, that would be the one that may slide a few months. So we'll bring back hard quotes on all of these to you all next month for consideration, including where we propose to fund them from.
And Joel, besides expanding the curve or doing some excavation, there's no excavation being contemplated outside of what's already paved. Is that correct?
No, sir. The biggest excavation on all 4 of those packages will be the trenching into that stormwater under package 1. That's just in existing pavement to get that new line in there.
Because I'm not to the south of where you're looking there. That's all park green space at the moment, right?
That's the base of Mount Storm, essentially, correct?
Yeah, and so we're doing no further enhancement going into the green space.
Not under this project. I know Ann has talked about this, and with them being over here, I'm sure there's going to be, I know there's a lot of talk about enhancing that gateway to those stairs right there off of the road. I've seen that. It's pretty cool. I'm not sure where that stands, and we're not actively pursuing that project yet, but it's something I've heard of for sure.
Yep. That would be a park improvement, not a facility.
Right, correct.
There was an original plan that would have made a driveway effectively that would come out of the light.
Yeah, that's why I asked, because the initial plans that we saw took out a lot of green space and expanded the parking area into the park space. That's why I want to make sure that we're,
As we're on this one, as a kind of broader overview, so step one, get the inside done, so we can move our team in there by the deadline of getting out of our other space. Step two will be these outside enhancements that we think we can do during this. And again, kudos to Joel's team. Instead of making that one big package that we'd have to bid out, he's broken these into these smaller packages, which allow us a lot more flexibility to do the ones we want to do. And then the next step is the piece right before this, which is the Deal Road facility. And the planning that's underway to both locate biochar there and the new operations facility there. You know, the sale of the Reading Road property is about 2.1 million, of which 1.45 is going to the interior of Ludlow. As Joel said, we expect this next piece, these 4 projects, to be about maybe $400,000. To leave over a little bit of funding in that pocket or in that sale price, that then starts us on the Deal Road piece. Now that's 2 different pieces. One is the biochar facility, of which we currently have 1.1. We requested an additional $500,000 from the city in the capital budget, which I presented on to city council a week or so ago. We've also have that $700,000 grant that you approved last time to bring into that. So we're hoping to grow that pot of money. And then we requested in our capital budget request that we approved in December, an additional, I believe off the top of my head, $750,000 to go towards this project. But we don't fully know what this will cost yet. So we're in that kind of phase, but that would be, those will be the pieces that we'll be considering as we move forward. And how we kind of plan out that, but we'll want to get more input. If anybody wants to go out to Deal Road, it's fun to get out there and kind of see what it's really neat right now, because there's a building of the former, blank on the organization, but the former facility that was out there.
well, wasn't WPA.
Public Works.
That was originally, and then most recently it was, Howard House, right?
Oh.
Howard House was out there, but there's only 1 building left of the 5. So it's kind of a blank slate. There's a lot of former site there, and you can kind of imagine what could be here, which is a lot of fun. So if anybody's interested in that, happy to go tour, and any excuse to go out in the parks is always.
There's 1 building left.
One, correct, which will be demolished as part of this project, but it's like almost like a barrack style.
Is there any historical value in that?
Our architect and preservationist has said no. It's full of raccoons at the moment. Like, it's a place you don't want to walk in even in the daytime.
It was a very simple building that was meant to house workers. And then was converted.
I just remember seeing it a long time ago. Yeah.
One of the things we're considering is if we could kind of, depending on how much money we can start to bring in for the biochar, we can start to think of it as a campus-wide project and start to combine some of those funds. Because part of the project from biochar is we might be able to power this other facility. Again, if we have enough funding to come in for that piece of it, but that could make the entire Deal Road compound, if you will, closer to net zero. If we're able to use the incredible heat generated through biochar to
Either power or heat buildings. We use reject heat from the boiler, which is 1,500 degrees. The water's not 1,500 be steam, but it's hot as it can absolutely get without boiling. And we have all of that to go back in. That's one of the sites we visited in Missouri. That's what they did, was use that water to heat their barns next to their facilities. Just simple pumping and radiant tubing through the floors in situations like that. It may be more beneficial for us to use that heat for electricity production, from what they're saying right now. The Office of Environmental Sustainability is doing another study to see the requirements and what we could do for that site from a sustainable or, net zero energy standpoint. We're weighing that with requirements of biochar and those energy, requirements, which we will be able to act on shortly, because Crystal's RFP comes back today for biochar equipment. So we'll actually know what they're planning to use to be able to utilize those power requirements to better inform what we need for the site. That's where we are essentially at the moment on that. Great. Crystal, did I miss anything on that?
Just the opportunity for the IRA funding that could come out of that.
The grant, is that the?
So this would be in addition to the wood recovery grant that we applied for in March. If we can use 60% of the heat rejection and the energy rejection from that facility to power the
Deal facility, green space, yeah.
Then that is you make the initial investment and that's like a return that they'll take. So that's what we're analyzing with the Office of Environmental Sustainability.
Lots of moving pieces with this
Exciting.
second project. It is very exciting, and I think it has a lot of potential, but there's also a lot of key decision points. So feel free to ask lots of questions and we want you to be as involved as possible as we kind of start to pull this whole thing together, so.
I have one additional question. What about space in the new facility versus what we're vacating?
That's a crazy question because not crazy for you to ask, but just a hard question to answer because she's essentially getting rid of Reading Road, but we're turning that into 2 facilities. Ludlow, I believe, is 4,000 square foot of office space on the first floor, which will house almost all the permanent employees, the same as Reading now. We're also splitting some things apart that Reading does now that they won't do, or the new campuses will switch. So the mechanic shop, for instance, is out at Reading Road. That's going to relocate this fall to Sinton here, like out there. So we're going to have a more centralized mechanic instead of one that's, well, Reading's pretty centralized too, but we'll still have a centralized mechanic shop instead of moving that along with Crystal's team all the way out to the west, for green space. So a couple things are moving around. Yeah, it's hard to quantify if they'll have the same amount of office space or not, but with green space and all of the seasonal employees running out of there, we really do need both of those facilities to make whole what was done at Reading, even with moving the mechanic shop to Sinton, if that answers your question. It takes 3 facilities essentially to make up what she had at Reading.
But I was wondering.
They'll all be better than what she has now, if that makes sense too. Like it will set our staff up for the future, whereas Reading was kind of undersized and, not really serving all of the purposes that it need to anyway. So.
Thank you.
Let's see. The next one's my favorite one to talk about today, just for a moment. Smales Western River's Edge is kicking off in earnest. I don't know. We met with the Army Corps last week just to talk through some of the big picture designs and all of that kind of stuff. I'm beyond excited to be able to help with this. Not that one to you. I don't have any pictures of Smale in here for this time. It's just an update to let you all know that where that stood and where those meetings are is Jason and I are helping the Army Corps prepare for a charrette in May. And we've had one pre-charrette meeting where we're just fact finding, gathering all the studies. They have a team of about 10 people working on this project on the Army Corps end. Looking at environmental studies, looking at topographic surveys that we have, and essentially giving them all the information that we can to start building out this design package. So,
Tentatively, the charrette's scheduled for Tuesday, May 16th. The Army Corps will be up here, bringing community interests, partner interests, and start to kind of talk through what we want out of that project.
The next one is my second action item. This one's something that's been going on, and you all are aware of the electrical problems probably that has hampered waterfront for a couple of years now. This is essentially the first phase of trying to repair some of those areas. This one deals with Yateman's Cove. Apparently, there's a dead short in the ground, which means there's a break in one of the wires under the ground in that approximately 1,200 feet of line you see there represented in green. The gearbox is shown in red. That's where all the power is initiated, and then it serves essentially 5 event panels represented by those numbers, or somewhere along that line. The manholes are what's represented by the numbers, but there's 5 sets of event panels that are served by this. The underground infrastructure is about 45 years old at this point, and once you have a dead short in the ground, that essentially means the place where you're not grounded properly. This is one of 3 major legs down on the waterfront, I think, that's out or intermittently powered. So we're asking essentially for a $250,000 allowance to begin fixing these huge waterfront electrical issues. This one being fixing this whole leg. That accounts for essentially taking out all the existing infrastructure, running brand new wiring, brand new gearboxes. Everything will be brand new and functional. Those event panels will be functional for the first time fully in 3 years. I believe last year they had a intermittent panel that they'd bring down, a temporary panel that they'd bring down, with the power getting worse and worse in this area as that short has continued to worsen. That one of those panels, I believe, had to be used elsewhere as a permanent fix, and now we don't even have a panel to do like that in the same manner this year. So this is one big project that's going to fix a whole lot of issues and allow, for more events, more ease of events for Lou and his team. So we're asking, I have one preliminary quote on this. We're going to potentially run this through the third-party agreement, which would be way quicker to get this stuff done and potentially allow us to actually utilize this area this summer. Our initial quote is about $200,000 to perform this work. We need at least 3 quotes, which would take about a 90-day process. We can also utilize the third-party agreement to do it much quicker. We're weighing those options right now at the director's level, but we are asking today for you to approve a $250,000 allotment for this money?
For funding this, Greg has identified, there's a Yateman's Cove Fund. It doesn't live in the Commissioner's Fund like many of our funds, but this one lives at the city, which probably just dates back to historically how it was set up. But it's the principal of $500,000 originally, and that doesn't get invested the way that our Commissioner's funds do, and instead just grows with interest. So it's grown to about $718,000 or so, but it's not making that much interest. The growth is very slow. So we're proposing approval to pull $218,000 out of that, which would require an ordinance, and we've already started to do the legwork of getting that done. But then we pulled that $218,000 out of that, leaving that principal still to continue to grow, albeit slowly. And then we would supplement that with about $32,000 of our infrastructure and rehabilitation dollars in order to get to that $250,000. But once again, Joel's asking for a pretty sizable contingency on this project, but we are dealing with electrical work in the ground that's been broken for a while, including the dead short. So we want to make sure that we don't have to stop work and come back to you if we need a little bit extra. But as always, our hope is that money then goes back.
Do you have to get approval of council to pull that money out?
To pull the money out, yes. So with your,
Why we're asking now?
starting to do the back work, we won't submit it until, of course, you approve that as a path forward. That's our recommended, at least our proposed path forward, to pull that money out. So utilize it for what it was intended for, which is to take care of this part.
So your approval today would allow us to generate a final quote, which we will bring back to you next month for sure, but it'll allow Craig at least to work towards that ordinance and save us essentially 4 weeks in the process, which is why we're bringing this to you before I have an exact dollar amount. We do have one quote, so I know what it's not going to exceed, minus whatever general condition fees that they charge, and Megan charges us to utilize the TPA. But we know that it won't exceed this, and we certainly know that there's at least this much work at Yateman's Cove to warrant this money.
If this is something that we want to do, why don't we just go ahead and approve a contract up to this, so you don't have to come back?
Not to exceed 250,000.
Yeah. Is that work
Absolutely.
for you?
That is exactly.
I would rather do it that way
That's
Perfect.
than come back.
It's not one of the ones that are here on our reports because it's not one, and I can I'll ask Craig to speak to it a little bit, but it's not one that's under our control. It's one that is for this park. Maybe it's gone a little bit under the radar. Craig, if you want to speak to us.
Within your commissioners, within the actual PowerPoint, it's just one of the funds that's assigned to us as a trust given to the city from P&G, where Yateman's Cove is for the development of Yateman's Cove. And then there was $500,000 principal amount that has grown in the account with $300,000 come in for the sole purpose of the maintenance and operation of Yateman's Cove. This fund, I believe, 403.
Oh, I see it here on page 88.
Yes.
That's it.
There we go.
Yeah.
But how the trust was set up with the city, it has to follow revised code 35 on the investment. That's how the city invests.
Is that all these funds that are listed in the section on your
Like
report?
Rosebud is.
Okay, got it.
Same with
Okay.
Schmidt Lab, same with the EM fund.
And typically what happens is that in the budget process, are these allocated funds, appropriated funds? I mean,
Those are not appropriated funds.
Okay.
What is interesting about the Rosebud and the AMP is they take the principal in a separate fund and they'll move the income into another fund for distribution. It's a little different where they just have the principal and the income staying in one fund. We just can't spend the principal.
okay.
So would this be drawing down all of the interest income from that?
Yes. And it'll bring it back down to the principal amount of 500,000.
Okay, and that doesn't get invested anyway, right? That interest.
Not in the same way that we.
No, it does not. They have to follow, the way the trust is set up, they have to follow Ohio revised code 35, which basically it's just interest.
Okay.
Any other questions for Joel or comments on this expenditure? Obviously, this is one of our key parks.
These funds have been accounted for in past years.
It just has to be done.
Yeah.
So I'd like to move that we accept the recommendation of the staff. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So that motion is to approve a contract up to, so you don't have to come back to us.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I'll report back next month on what the actual contract was and when you can expect that to be started. Thank you very much for that. I just want to say this. My goal in the next few years here as we build this and get an asset management plan in place is to where I can budget for things like this that I know are going to happen. So you're not hit with a $250,000 ask every month. I'll tell you a month, every single month for a year to take care of this in 3 years. That's what we hope to get to the point to do. That'll, inform what we use some of our infrastructure and rehabilitation dollars to do. That's what we're hoping to get. So you never get hit with these huge chunks. That's proper asset management. And that's what we're working towards. Thank you. Two just quick updates on memorandums of understanding and right of entries. The first one is actually 2 MOUs with MSD that we presented to you months ago. Neither of them have any changes to them. Jason signed one of them, I know, and the other one is just in final review. There was some site restoration language that we wanted to make sure was exactly right. And thanks for Jason. Thanks to Jason, Kevin, and Charles Martinez for their help getting those things ironed out and right. We expect that other one for the work at LeBlanc, which is MSD fixing the dry weather outlet. That one will be done this month as well. Victory Parkway Bridge rehabilitation. This is the one we're partnering with DOTE and the state to work on improvements to Eden Park Drive up past Twin Lakes. I just wanted to give you all an update and get final. DOT's essentially asked for verbal approval that the park board, take ownership of the maintenance of the new green space that's shown there. It's not a whole lot different than what we're doing right now. We actually gained some green space in this as they're taking out that road beyond where Luray cuts off. Just want to ensure in my talks with staff, it doesn't seem like it's going to add any burden to what they're doing. They already are working across the street at Twin Lakes and they already maintain this green space adjacent to it. Yep, they're adjacent there. And did you see the old road that's going to go away?
Take over, right?
Yes. Yeah.
These 2 roads are created.
That's correct.
to serve this road. This space here will be the space that went out that way.
That's right. So you see this road here will essentially cease to exist. That dead blind curve that goes into itself, which is so dangerous for pedestrians and traffic. That part goes away, which is DOT's improvement, and becomes individual driveways to those homes that were served by that. DOTE is asking us essentially to plow this. We're going to sit over there anyway and park our equipment while we're working on Twin Lakes and other parts of this area anyway. So it's what I understand, it's not going to be an additional burden on our staff or very much at all. Just asking for confirmation in email so they can move forward. Yes, sir.
While you're there, I was visualizing the road that goes up like by the Vietnam up towards the water tower. Where is that road?
It's on past this, I believe. Cliff, no.
No.
The main road that runs up this way.
Yeah.
You can see the beginning of the radius here. Match line there. Go down. I only showed 2 pieces here, but it's.
That's okay.
Right here.
Okay, so it's beyond that.
Yes.
Okay.
Twin Lakes is right across the street.
See that? Yes, this is Twin Lakes.
The entrance.
That's, yes, no, that's the exit.
That's the
That's the exit,
That's the
yeah.
exit. Right. Yeah, there's the entrance to Twin Lakes. So down, of course, it's like,
That's
zoom it out a little. So the picture's smaller. Yep, perfect. There's that road.
Yeah.
There's the inlet to Twin Lakes, and there is the road you're talking about, which is this radius here, beyond this stuff at Luray.
And so, as we work with them, there's opportunities here to narrow the entrance.
Yeah.
And the exit in order to make that less of a sweeping entrance and exit, but more of a turn in to a much more narrow and controlled road with some bump outs and some pedestrian safety. That Joel and his team have been working with them through. This is a 27-28 project, right? It's a 6-27 project.
Beginning of 26.
Yeah, so it's never years out, but.
That's the other thing that I put in the update for this month is initial comments here, and DOTE is all about road dieting in this situation. Things make things very pedestrian friendly, which I appreciate. I also appreciate the fact that there's things that have to get into Twin Lakes to maintain pumps and things of that nature. So what you're seeing here, and this is again a 15% drawing, the first time we've seen an alignment. So plenty of time for discussion over the next couple of years. They're showing you a 12-foot wide lane there. That is way too narrow for what we need to do here. So I've already had them move this out to 20. It's shown at about 24. So we are going to tighten some of these radii up in keeping with pedestrian safety, but we will still maintain a 20-foot wide access into the park for our equipment, tree trucks, things like that. Otherwise, we're just going to have a mess on both sides of that sidewalk. So those little details I'm working with DOTE as they work through the design.
And once you get in there, there's parking on both sides, isn't there?
Yes, ma'am. And that
There
will,
is.
the lakes you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lakes will not change other than this, just how we interact with the new.
Yeah.
with those-
Just as you enter.
Yes, ma'am. What you see there, back to that kind of line he's got shown below that concrete, that's about as far as the limits will be taken, just to shave those radiuses down, make them so that you don't have hugely wide radiuses, which allows people then to come into the park at 40 miles an hour. That's what we don't want. So that's the whole reason for tightening those up, is to increase pedestrian traffic and safety coming into the park. Any questions on that one? So DOT is essentially just asked for an email from me saying that our staff is in agreement that we will maintain that. They need to put that into the project as far as an update to ODOT that they've considered those things. And I'm just asking today for approval verbally that that is okay to maintain those additional spaces.
You don't need a motion.
I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, making you all aware and ensuring that you didn't have any concerns with those things. All right, I will get back with them. Thank you very much. Any other questions on that one? Okay. I think I'm down to current initiatives.
I think the other ones might just be things that
Pretty quick stuff. Yep. So now we're back to kind of our current initiatives. What we're doing as a staff in P and D. We are, because of International Friendship Park and specifically Smale, all of the things we had down there. Alex, our master's student from UC, is working through digitizing as much of those maps as he can in-house. He's scanning as hard as he can right now. And then he's setting aside maps that are too delicate so that we can take those to the library and have those bigger ones scanned as well. So digitization is already in progress. Matt DeBona is continuing to work towards asset management. Like I said, knowing what we have electrical wise, plumbing wise, in every single one of our parks and being able to plan, fiscally for when those things are going to have to be fixed. That's what we're working on in-house. I got to talk to President Getz just for a moment a couple of days ago about the project tracker. It is working. Matt continues to amaze me. Molly, back to your last month's question on organization. Matt is using something now called Power BI. If you guys haven't seen that or haven't used it. So beyond even what I was talking about last time with Planner, this allows us to basically ask any question and filter it almost instantly. If you want to know everything that's going on in any single park, we can just filter down to that park, and then we can rearrange those things by any way you want to see it in perspective wise. Want to know what stormwater projects we're doing in Burnett Woods? It takes us about 20 seconds to pull those filters, put that in together. It essentially pivot tables a pivot table the way I understand it. And it pulls from many different sources to give us a very succinct summary of anything you want to see. So Director and I've talked about this already, and Matt and I have talked about this. We are certainly ready for you all to come down and let us show you this. And whenever you can make time in the next month, we would love to have you down to our shop at Hauk, sit around the huge TV and just show you how this thing works. And then at that point, we can do better about giving you the reports you want to see every month. Or what Matt is talking about is being able to give you all access to this and you be able to filter these things yourself and ask those questions. We'll certainly still help anytime we need to, but this is something we can even give you all access to.
You're gonna send us links to your Power BI report?
Well,
if you want to reach out to me, we can set that up, do like a half an hour to an hour if your time.
Do you fold the police report into your information per park?
I do not know that, Commissioner. I will ask Matt if that is something that Esri tracks, that tracks hundreds of different social things. I bet that it does, but I don't know specifically about the Cincinnati police report or if that's geospatially tied to what we're doing. Like, are you saying, where do we have this call this month? Is there a map?
Well, for instance, if I were to say, okay, what's going on in Eden Park with your report, and you have your list of things.
No, ma'am, it does not. My report is only dealing with capital and construction projects.
Yeah, I understand.
Not too much of the social stuff. While we utilize those social metrics inside of our matrix to prioritize projects, what we're presenting to you is just a show of our projects versus funds.
Okay.
And then I point out that Joel mentions Power BI and the reports that they're producing. These are those tables that have every single project in them. It's like a 70 or 80 page document itself. But just like last month, we printed one out. It's available for anybody that wants to review it. But we kept it out of the budget, out of the packet, just because it's a lot of printing and just a ton of detail. But the exciting thing is that whether we, pull it up every month in this meeting, but what it is it's just captured all that. So, anytime you want to look at it, anytime anybody wants to see it, it's available. We'd love to set up some meetings to run you through it. It's a lot to take in, but it's exciting.
Great.
All right, just a couple of design focuses to let you know. We'll be back next month to report on Almsalt and French Park Water Main. That project is ready for bid. We're going out to bid for that right now, probably under an emergency. When we started that project design on it about a year ago or less than a year ago, we were just trying to be proactive with some of the water main breaks. Andy's let me know that Alt's water main break is getting worse. They've had to fix things 2 or 3 times. So we're right where we need to be to get that. I'm actually going to write an emergency memo and allow us to utilize. We already have funds for this as well, but just to circumvent the process and get that project fixed here in the next month or so. So we anticipate having contractors and knowing what that project is going to cost to bring back to you next month. Let's see, California Woods, just to let you know, I haven't forgotten about the bigger project. Jason and I actually had a couple meetings with some folks this month talking about the bigger picture of California Woods and how we're going to implement more of these, stormwater and erosion protections into that area, because this is one of them. It's the worst one, but it's still only a Band-Aid in relation to the, $5 million project that we need to actually stabilize this. So we will report back on that as it continues to gain some steam after we get this initial Band-Aid fixed. I think that's everything I have. Commissioners, do you have any questions for me? So, sorry it took an hour and sorry I don't know what an RFP is. No.
Well, I don't know if you're getting sleep at night.
I have a heck of a team.
What else you and your team are working on.
Thank you all.
Great. Thank you, Joel.
Thank you, Joel.
Okay, HR update.
Commissioners.
Good morning, Derek.
As you can see, we got grass being mowed, we got hiring part-timers, it's been extremely busy these last 4 weeks. So currently, I guess I'll start with full-timers. We're around 16 vacancies, but we have 9 requisitions currently in the process. They're partnering with Central HR, we're meeting at 1 o'clock tomorrow to kind of push those through. That includes your grant writer position. Once that requisition is approved, it will take another 2 to 3 weeks to add it to our table of organization. It will be full steam ahead. We'll get the hiring process started. It'll take about a month to get all those applications in and reviewed. So within the next couple of months, you should have a grant writer offer. That's my goal.
Great.
Wow.
Yes. So currently, in comparison to like last year, our part-time positions, we have municipal worker and rec specs, those are our part-time positions. Around April 17, of last year, we had about 96 applications. We have about 150 comparison. The other numbers are probably about double. Except our Chrome Conservatory, we had about 30 additional applications compared to last year. But we are doing really good as far as recruitment, but it has slowed. So we had about a 90% increase. Now it's down to about 28-30% increase in applications for part-timers. And I just think that's because we're, you get that first surge, it's kind of slow and we're in the process of interviewing. And then also remember that part-time position, that's kind of like a revolving door sometimes. You lose people on the front end just due to how long it takes to onboard them with background checks, EHS, and then on the back end, just because they find a higher paying job. Currently, I have put in a request to equalize our MW salary with represented municipal workers. So we'll raise them up to $1, and I think that's going to happen. Our rec specs, I'm partnering with Recreation to get those equalized as well with the MW salary. So that'll raise them up $1. And it doesn't seem much, but I think it'll be a lot for our part-timers. So currently, I think we have about 6. So we've hired about 46 part-timers. 18 of those are within the hiring process. I'm meeting with 5 to 10 people tomorrow downtown to finish their new hire paperwork. They'll be starting the following week. We are really moving fast with part-timers right now, and hopefully they'll stay so we can slow down the hiring and I can focus more of my efforts to full-time as well. Currently, I have a HR offer letter going out tomorrow. So we could have another HR person the next month. And we're in full swing of hiring administrative technicians for Chrome to help with them because they're doing so much good work. They really need some assistance. We're hiring 2 administrative technicians in Chrome to help manage their payroll and finances and their shop over there. So some help is coming to Mark House over there. I did get we made an offer months ago that was turned down and that person is now interested. So I'm hoping they're still interested. It's a little bit difficult in Chrome because they have an irregular schedule. They're open a little bit late. They work holidays, they work weekends. So that's really the pain point for that area. So our true pain points as far as HR right now is just keeping up with the part-timers. Full-time wise, we're going to work with getting these requisitions approved at Central HR and move through the vacancy review board. And we're getting the Arbery series finalized. Right now, we're in the final stages of getting the union to approve our new classification to have that progressive training and development for our tree workers and natural resources. And we are close. We are almost there. So we'll have 2 tree workers and a tree worker manager, supervisor that we're trying to get approved by ASME and Code. And Jason has been a huge helper, helping us partner with them and kind of chiming in on our meetings to have that positive voice.
Great.
Super. You guys have any other questions?
Review for me what the part-time rate is.
So for municipal workers, it is $15. For rec specs, the top is $15.30.
And so are you trying to get the 15 to 16? Is that the
Yeah.
dollar that's
Like
like
$1 on both ends.
Uniquely at Park, our part-time and seasonal workers are not represented by unions.
Right.
And that's just a historical difference from many part-time and seasonal positions in the city. So when the city negotiates contracts and the rate goes up, rate doesn't automatically go up for us, which then puts us at a disadvantage from hiring.
Okay.
So we're working with the central HR down at City Hall to get that equalized so that we're in the same position to hire folks and pay them what they work.
Right.
And 15 for years, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And we had one employee planning design who just had a baby, Andrew Campbell. So I want to say congratulations to him. Pretty baby girl, have some pictures so we can cascade out to show you guys.
Great.
We're gonna have her drawing stuff up come August. It's a couple months to kind of get settled. We're gonna have her full speed ahead, drawing new parking structures and new design for things. Bring her down there.
High expectations.
Exactly.
Any other questions for Derek?
Right, thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll interject as your representative on the Cincinnati Recreation Commission Board. Anybody that you know that can be a lifeguard, we are looking for lifeguards at CRC. So please spread the word.
But you're gonna open up all the pools this year?
We don't have enough. Right now, there are enough lifeguards to open 10 of the 23 pools. So
Is that the limiting factor?
the limiting factor is a number of, there's one of those 23 that from an infrastructure standpoint shouldn't be opened. So that's 10 of 22, but it is the number of lifeguards available. to
Which
staff
pool is that? Shouldn't be open.
Mount Adams.
Oh, really?
That little pool up there needs probably $3 million. So
Wow, that was been such a popular pool. So fun.
What do they pay lifeguards?
they've increased that to 18.
18.
That was a special, they increased that pay grade to induce people.
Jim, have you considered advertising or do you already at Cincinnati Marlins Club?
You know, I can ask that.
Okay.
They've been doing the rounds of every school,
Yeah.
going into the schools. But as far as like touching Paul Crosley, the YMCA's, the problem is the YMCA's are in the exact same position.
But
And,
the Marlins, that's a big swim club
oh yeah,
and it's got a lot of teenagers.
Yep.
That are very proficient swimmers.
absolutely.
It's an idea.
Yep.
How many lifeguards? Per pool?
We're looking for 200, there's a need for, and I don't know per pool because it difference between the size of the pool and the amenities, but 200, and I believe the number is like 250 kids or lifeguards that we need in total. And we've got 125. We've got half of what we need, basically.
Yeah.
Walnut Hills.
Let me get two on, two off.
Advertise there.
That's a good.
My spouse was a lifeguard when he was at Walnut Hills many years ago, but
Yeah.
it's a very serious job.
Easy to get.
Very serious job.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So we're getting ready to pull up a slideshow of some projects that Lou's been working on. But in the interim, it's not on the agenda. I would have invited Mark House down to talk about some great news coming out of Crone over this calendar year. And so while we get the news pulled up, we can invite.
Absolutely. Great. Mark, you didn't have to get all dressed up for us, but it's great to see you.
See you. I wanted to tell you that during our current fiscal year, we've had a lot of success.
Yeah.
Started off in July with Prismatica. If you got to see it, if you're interested, I have some pictures in a little slideshow, but it was the first time it had been brought to the Midwest. And I called them every week for 2 months to get them to come here, and they did. And it was wonderful. It increased revenue and visitation by 400%. In fact, I have some data here to share with you about those. So that was a big step for us during the summer when we typically only draw in about $87,000 to hit 364 actually. And then we went right into our holiday show. And it was a big success as well because we met someone named Mindy Rosen, who helped us get a Cincinnati Landmark Music Hall made. And it was huge. It was 8 feet wide.
Yeah.
It was so big that we actually had to move the poinsettia tree into the lobby. But it turned out very well. We increased revenue and visitation. Revenue jumped $90,000 for that show. Just the holiday show. And then for the spring show, I spoke to one of my staff about bringing some rabbits in.
Oh, it's so wonderful.
Yeah. And we raised rabbits. So she thought that was an interesting concept and took it to the next level. And it turned out very well. In fact, it really kind of ran away with us. There were lines. It was every bit as well attended as the holiday show. And that was $400,000. That really surprised me. And now we're doing our butterfly show.
What was the previous record for a spring show?
107,000.
Wow. So we brought in 400,000. So
wow.
How many births? How many births were there?
Wasn't that kind of show.
We do have birds that visit. They fly in and out of the roof vents. A lot of people comment on them, but they're free to come and go as they please. But the rabbits were so successful. We'd like to do that again in the future. We're so surprised. So many little kids. And the bunnies were every bit as cute as they were in their children's books. So it turned out very well. We collaborated with the Cincinnati Public Library to bring in those favorite children's books. And then now currently the butterfly show, which is Butterflies of the Meadow, and it's doing very well. Visitation is high. I think as we're on the tail end of the pandemic, a lot of people are looking for things to do and they are coming out and visiting us. In fact, we're drawing in about $300,000 a week or $100,000 a week. So the first 3 weeks we've generated $300,000. All this is added up to, we're on track to break $2 million right now for the fiscal year, which is a big jump from 2019 when we did 1.47 million. That was our record.
Wow. How's parking? How's the parking situation?
That's always been a challenge. And that actually will be addressed in the master plan that's coming up. In the meantime, we've been putting some parking signs around to show people where additional parking is that's not in sight. So for example, Cliff Drive, it's up behind Prone. It's not that far of a walk, but people don't know that it's there. So the CEB team has been instrumental in helping us make good signage that we put around to show people where that is.
You know, I was down at Tom Jones Commons and I drove up and the parking lot was packed. And I thought, these people are all at Tom Jones Commons, but it was overflow, people going up to Bunnies and Blooms. I mean, it was incredible.
New Eden Park Drive project that will go down to Martin Drive will add about 20 to 25 spots on the other side of the street too. That's 2.5, 3 years from now, but still it's even more relief hopefully coming beyond what Mark has now.
But conservatory is doing very well. It's fresh and exciting and well visited and very popular. In fact, I have something amazing to share with you. Molly Wellman, a local cocktail.
I was gonna say, bring us hooch.
Yeah.
It is that.
She came by and asked for a tour. So I took them around, a small group. And I did what I always do. Tasted the exotic fruits, smelled the spices. And they said, well, this, Crown has its own distinctive flavor. And they captured that and they put it in a bottle. They made a gin. It is Crown gin. And what is fun about this, and I'm not advocating that you take a sip, but if you just smell it, you can smell the essence of the Crown Conservatory.
Wow, that smells nice.
Does it smell like mold?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Mold, what are you talking about?
So,
yeah, I don't know if it's psychological that you're thinking Crown, but when you smell it, you do think.
Has a nice clean.
Oh, it does. And I love the label.
That label.
The label is awesome.
And I love gin and since here.
Yeah.
Take a sip.
Great. No, I read about this. It's
The
fantastic.
label.
Yeah, I think it was just about the Inquirer this morning.
Yeah.
Oh, it was. Oh, that's great.
Career.
I was down at
Last
Wow.
Northern Road Brewery is, I believe, who is distilling this. And they prominently display it down there and they're promoting that. So it's great.
You can't sell it in the gift shop, I think.
License.
but that's what's going on at Crown now.
Oh, that's great.
A lot of good things.
Nice.
And more to come.
Very nice.
The sales numbers, and interestingly, the sales numbers are also kind of how we track attendance. We don't exactly click, but so it's kind of a guide for how well it's doing, but it's just people are loving it. And Mark and his team are just doing a great job of being creative, being innovative, giving people reasons to come down there and come back because it's such exciting shows.
Yeah.
So,
Mark, your leadership has really made a difference there. It's amazing the number of people that I run into in the city. We not only mention Crown, but mention having met you. And just as you did today, you're so welcoming and you show people things that they have never seen, even if they've been to Crown 10 or 15 times.
Yeah.
And so I applaud you for what you're doing there and the leadership that you're showing. The other thing I want to say is that I love seeing these numbers, but it's not, our goal is I'm thrilled that equates into the number of people that have come into Crown and experienced Crown. Obviously, this helps immensely with the budget. But so number one, it shows that we're opening up a part of our park that people love. I think it also for us, we need to be mindful how important Crown Conservatory is to Cincinnati Parks.
For getting it rebuilt.
Absolutely. So I also applaud you guys, Jason and Mark, for your thinking about the master plan and what we need to do to make sure it's there for the next generation. Because with the number of people coming through, I know that takes a stress on the building itself. So thank you. And we look forward to talking about what we need to do to support you.
It's great. Thank you. Crown turns 90 years old.
Yeah,
It's a long time.
it is.
Still very popular.
Older than that gin has eaten. I know.
So
Thank
next up, I'm
you.
excited to invite Lou up to make a presentation. Last week, one morning, Lou sent like 3 emails with a bunch of beautiful pictures in them of awesome projects they're doing. We talked about them along the way, and I was like, and then like the next day, Lou was up to talk to Jenny about something. I was like, Lou, this is amazing. Do you want to do a presentation? And Lou's like, I would love to come talk about all the awesome stuff his team's doing. So Lou, feel free to sit down if you want to.
I haven't made my decision.
Yeah, here's whatever you want.
Podium is,
Lena, that's good too.
Whatever's that.
I'd also like to recognize part of my team. That was a big part of the projects I'm about to describe. Casey McCann, he's a district crew leader for the Smale, Washington Park, Ziegler district. And we have Ellis and Allie. Allie just got recently promoted. And then Tyler, who's a service crew leader at Smale. They were key pieces to all these projects I'm about to explain. It's a little bit of a preamble before we get into the pictures. At the beginning of every fall winter season, we do some collaborative planning and come up with a plan of winter projects. And this year, we came up with a particularly aggressive plan, which included the 5 projects that I'm going to outline here in a second. And I think it's important to note that this is all in addition to the normal stuff that's done through the fall and winter season, like seasonal mulching, cutting back of perennials, turf restoration, all those normal tasks that already consume an additional, a substantial amount of time. So these projects are, again, over and above and really should be seen as such. The first one, and they also had the added benefit, and as we planned these, they solved some existing issues and problems. So this project here, we call the Schmidlap Stage Event Plaza. And we created a plaza in front of the Schmidlap Stage. And the problems it solved was that was an area where turf would not grow because of compaction issues, because it was right by the stage. There was also, ironically, some dog issues there, in certain areas, and also tree root issues. So again, you can see that the plaza actually had some paver components and some crushed limestone components. In its final version, it'll allow for kind of a dance floor area in front of the stage, as well as a seating area where we'll put we have bistro tables and chairs to go in front of the stage. So again, it's a significant enhancement to the area. We can go on. Hinkle gazebo paver repairs. What's unique about this, again, it really highlights the fact of teamwork. The Hinkle gazebo is actually outside the riverfront region. It's actually in the east region. So Casey showed a big example of teamwork by going over there. It also showed collaboration between our operational staff and the facility management or maintenance staff that did the wood portions of this project. So had this been done, and typically this would be done, a lot of this work by an outside contractor. So we did it all in-house with substantial savings. Next slide. Washington Park garden installation. This is along 14th Street at the northeast side of Washington Park. This area had kind of gotten away from us, and some of the original plantings had deteriorated, and we had some stuff in there that we didn't want like poison ivy. So we decided to significantly upgrade that area with a new garden. What's really cool about this, and you'll notice in the picture, it has hardscaping elements of granite stone. It's got a crushed limestone path through it. It's got a dry creek bed creation and it even has a bridge component. Again, this was completely done in-house, which really, again, highlights the skill level, the technical expertise, but also design and really initiative amongst our staff. Next slide. This is Kathy's Garden Smale Riverfront Park. This area is adjacent to the Black Brigade. Again, this was an area that, because as the trees matured, the grass wasn't thriving, kind of became a mud pit. So what we decided to do was create a new space. You know, what's interesting, this space is to, you know, honor the contributions of Kathy Kaldemeyer, and now in memory of Kathy and her tremendous contributions she made to the park. Again, this featured a really nice variety of plants, but also has hardscape elements of granite stones, a path of crushed limestone, and some large, very large, nice granite benches.
I believe it was really exciting too, because Kathy got to visit it,
Yeah.
which was really special. And I know Jennifer took some photos there with her. And so that's just a really nice piece. The Lou's team was able to get this done in time for her to enjoy it. So wonderful.
It was very beautiful, very nice. Next slide, please. And one final thing, we just basically completed it about a week ago in Sycamore Hill is a property that actually was in the West region for quite a while. A couple months ago, I discussed having it moved to the riverfront region because we wanted to, you know, basically improve the area. There's not really a good before picture that shows where the honeysuckle line was at a point, but it was, there's a bench. I don't know, I guess the bench isn't in the picture. But the honeysuckle was pretty close, within feet of Sycamore. So we drove it back across that whole length, which is over 1,000 feet, to a depth of 30 to 50 feet all along that. Not only did we remove invasive honeysuckle, but there were a lot of declining and junk trees that were impacting even the walk along the sidewalk. So those were all removed. We've already planted some new trees. So again, it showed a tremendous amount of initiative. I give Casey again a lot of credit. You know, when sometimes I guess my guys say, hey, why are you wanting to take other stuff on? But Casey has always shown a willingness to take on new projects and new areas. And Tyler utilized his tree crew experience to do, again, we did collaborate with the actual tree crew and land management, but Tyler was able to employ his former skills. He thought he had escaped, but.
You know, this is on a very visible path route. And I actually got phone calls from people wondering what was going on. I asked Jason, he said, Lou and his crew is cleaning it up. And it clearly people recognized. And now when I drive by there quite a bit, it looks great. You know, it just is a nice, clean green space. Right. Coming in from downtown into the neighborhood. And it just looks great.
We had a real nice picture of Mr. Tarbell. I didn't make the cut.
He is one that I got the phone call from. Yes.
Very happy man. Right?
He is a very happy man. And I was glad to get, at first, when I got the phone call, I wondered where it was going. But it turned out to be very happy and pleased with how that looked. He was probably out there supervising you, I would think.
He's great. I'm gonna choose him. He's one of the best.
Cool.
In fact, so I want to add a couple of things with Lou, and I appreciate him being a good leader down at the waterfront. He is all in when it comes time to doing the laborers work, all these projects. He is out there with us too, sweating.
Oh.
And so he's a great leader. We all appreciate him down there. Great group.
Great.
As far as the Sycamore Hill, and I was the one that took the pictures, and it's very hard to get pictures of a quarter mile long.
Yeah.
But Mayor's Corporate Challenge of this year, which I believe falls May 12th.
Yeah.
That will have a big group of people up there, and we will be kind of getting the finish touches to it, which involves about 100 yards of mulch, which is trekked up that steep hill.
That's
Mainly where all the honeysuckle was removed. So it's a really fun project, and to see it go from almost a blight area to in fact, we have a picture on social media of somebody actually getting engaged.
Oh, great.
Not that picture, but a little further down, there's like a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
honey bowl for the Sycamore Hill area.
That might not even happen without you, so. No, it's like, it's like it's the game.
That's all I'm saying.
Well, as we're talking about Sycamore Hill, there are three kind of public spaces, one on Milton Street, one on Bull Street, and then one up around at the top, kind of at the top of this park, that are owned by the Department of Community Development and Planning. And they had initially put out an RFP to see about turning those sites into housing. We talked to some community members, and community members were not excited about that at all, because they love these spaces. And so I reached out to Lou, and we put together a tentative plan to take those over, and we're currently working with Community Development Plan and Department of Community and Economic Development. We'll of course bring that to you guys to officially do anything, but we're at least in the stages of trying to preserve those public spaces and green spaces to support this park. And you'll kind of have, from Milton, with a few gaps in the teeth, we'll have kind of a beautiful smile all the way up and around. It'll get to Hopkins Park, where right now they're underway with doing a road diet there, where they're going to change the flow of Auburn, Dorchester, which is the other side of Eden Park, and Sycamore, to make that a lot safer.
Yeah.
And we'll actually get a little bit more of Hopkins Park. And by the end of it, there'll be a little bit of a crown that goes on the tip of Hopkins Park. So it'll be a really nice flow. And again, Casey said it, and I said it to begin with, but just when I called Lou up, I was like, what do you think about these spots? All in, we can do it. Like, let's just step up and do this for the community. So that's just
wonderful.
what we're looking for here.
Great.
I'd just like to close that with, one comment. You always try to do integrate a little extra work into the winter time frame. And, one or two, but it really is. I've been around a long time. To accomplish 5 projects of this magnitude is truly significant, and something, I rarely have ever seen in my 23 years here. And it certainly goes to the hard work and efforts of my team.
Great.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Well, Lou and your crew, I said it earlier when we had a room full of visitors, but the parks are because of what you all do, and the dedication and stepping up to take up more, or the artistic side of it, that you bring your experiences to clean it up. It is so noticeable, and that is why parks are so loved in Cincinnati and throughout the region. So again, it's you guys, and I know we've taken you off your job today to bring you in here, but it's well worth it for us to be able to look you in the eye and say thank you for what you're doing, because it really makes a big difference. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I definitely thought this was going to be a quick meeting when I saw we had 3 things on the agenda, but here we are at 11:20. President got to ask me to talk about the performance monitoring agreement. I don't know the history of this, but I believe this was set up when they set up the Office of Data and Analytics years back, and this is something that's been implemented under a previous city manager, and the current city manager is carried forward, where we enter into a performance monitoring agreement each year. This mostly is about kind of having some metrics that we can report out through the Office of Performance and Data Analytics, kind of monitor what the city is doing system-wide. So my first time through this, Ginny and I sat down one afternoon, and I had asked a couple of folks to report out what we could monitor. But I just wanted to run you through this real quick. These are things that we'll be monitoring and kind of reporting out on, but things that we already do. There's 3 different sections. One is just department metrics. So I tried to highlight these on here because this form is a little bit one size fits all. So I tried to highlight where our things are on here. But first up is volunteer engagement. So we've set a goal of 3,000 volunteers and 30,000 hours of volunteer service. These are numbers we hit last year, but I wanted to start with something, because part of this is we're also developing reporting systems with the Office of Data Analytics. So that's the first goal. Next up is planting trees, something that's near and dear to City Council's heart, especially with the new funding for the urban forestry. So that is to plant trees both in the right of way and in our parks. And so the goal is 1,500 trees planted in the right of way and 400 trees planted in parks. Again, these are numbers that are below what we hit last year, but again, I wanted to set ground levels with my first time through this, and we can grow it as we move forward.
Jason, let me ask you a quick question on that one. That doesn't include relief, does it?
It does not, because relief is planted on private property with
Yes.
private donated funds.
Yes, understand.
Mhm.
That's still a part of the improving the canopy.
Absolutely. So
So-
last year, relief was one of the metrics that we did. It's a little different last year. We just had 5 metrics, and relief was one of the ones that was on there. But in talking to the city manager's office and the folks at data and analytics, they were looking for something that was more of a core
Got
function
it.
of the department rather than a add-on program.
Sure, okay.
So then last is education programming. So we set a goal of 1,500 young people served, 15,000 young people served, and 700 programs. These are again below the numbers that we hit last year, but numbers that we're excited to again set a benchmark and then try to improve year to year. Next up is customer service requests. This doesn't fit us perfectly well because we don't get a lot of requests through the traditional city public service or customer service request or CSR process. But one of the things we're going to try to build out this year is how to report back and capture what we're doing in a way that we can report to them so they can track how well we're doing at this. So first up is urban forestry team responding to hazardous trees and streets. I was amazed to hear from Crystal that their team gets to 100% of emergency reports in the streets within 24 hours. So we're going to try to stay to that goal. And then we're going to try to get to 100% of the less serious call outs within 3 days. So if somebody calls in with a tree that's causing some problem, we'll at least get out to it and get that initial inspection. Next is, what is the biggest thing we get calls about was my question to Jenny as far as like in our parks, and that's definitely litter, trash, or dumping within the parks. And so we're gonna try to respond to 90% of those and get them closed within 7 days, which obviously there'll be some projects that are bigger, larger projects that we'll have to like mobilize, whether it's public service resources, or we recently got a homeless encampment that had been developed over several years that required a week or 2 of mobilization, including the police department, including public services to bring some dumpsters and some dump trucks in. At that project, they found over 40 propane tanks. So a little scary how much they had. They turned it into a bit of a house. It was in a hidden part of Rapid Run Park.
Whoa.
Anyway, so there'll be some we won't get to within a week, but we're gonna try to get within 90% of it within a week.
Jason, how do we track those? So
That's one of the things we're developing.
Okay.
Right, is that we do get CSRs for a lot of those, but a lot of them are just calls to Antoine, our team, or emails that we get in. So we're going to work with the city manager's office to try to kind of figure out how to track those the best way.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit of what the whole goal of this is to try to make sure you can do everything great, but if you don't, if you don't track it and kind of publish it, then
nobody knows. Yep.
and then let's see here. Oh, and then the next one up is a report of broken things. So whether it is, we get lots of reports of broken things to the park. Some of them are small things like a light is out or like a piece of playground equipment has some problem with it. And so our goal is to respond and hopefully close those out, 70% of those tickets within 30 days. And the idea is that some of those will be larger things that might take longer, might involve Joel's team. And we won't be able to get to all of those within 30 days. You heard about the masonry steps at Burnett Woods back in December. We're on top of it, but obviously that's not one that's simple enough to get closed out in 30 days. So that's our goal. And then the last piece of it is projects. And so we have 3 projects. 2 of these appeared on the list last year and we didn't get them complete, but Joel and his team are getting them completed this year. And that's the Lido Park renovation. You guys all know a lot about the former District 5 police headquarters into our Division of Natural Resources. Full speed ahead on that. And then last is the temporary arming of Smale River's Edge. And so that's another project that we're hoping to get done this year. So these are projects that we're going to report back on and continue to update the city manager's office on and kind of committed to knocking out.
Great. What I asked Joel to do is if perhaps quarterly, give us an update.
We send it to the city manager's office.
Yeah, just share that with us too.
Absolutely. Thank you. Next
Director.
Oh, yeah. Actually, we're going to invite Jenny up.
Oh.
Last action.
Oh, okay.
Outside. We're about done with that.
Yes. Hi, Jenny. I don't think. Sorry if I break mid-presentation. I've got to.
Jenny can be quick.
Completely understand. In November, we had an emergency request go to our purchasing department to clean and replace a pump of our heat exchange system at Smale Riverfront Park. During that repair, it was discovered that the plates within the system, I should say, it is a dual system. The plates in one of the systems are all damaged and need to be replaced. So right now we are running off one system to handle all the heating and cooling of Anderson Pavilion and the carousel, while the other one is kind of temporarily in a stall, waiting for approval of this. And this is coming before you because this proposal is over $50,000. Excuse me. So what we are asking for is the proposal to replace the 90 plates of the unit that is down this moment. And then looking ahead as they move to the second unit and cleaning that, the possibility of having to replace those 90 plates. It may only be that we have to replace one, or hopefully it will be one or two. However, they have provided a proposal to us to replace all 180 plates, do the cleaning, the dye testing, and get it back up and functional. So what you have in front of you is a proposal of $83,000, excuse me, for that proposal to do both units to get them up and running. And that is worst case scenario. I have also added a $12,000 contingency on this so that I don't have to come back in front of you if something gets added onto this. Hopefully I don't even have to spend the $83,000. This replacement, or this would come out of Fund 980, which is the capital budget. There is a project line already associated for Smale water feature improvements, and that is out of 222011. And so there is $95,000 waiting in there. So the request today is for you to approve the use of that $95,000 in order to get this heat exchanger system back up and running, both units all included. And I can certainly report once everything is completed what the final price and cost was for that.
One thing to add, if you all don't mind, the urgency of this is the temperature outside. One unit right now certainly could run when you know the differential temperature between outside and what it's trying to do is only 15 degrees. And it's 40 degrees, and it's 90 degrees outside and it's trying to cool air down to 60 something, you know. That's when it requires a little bit of both of those pumps, and that is the urgency of why we're trying to do this now.
Sure.
So
Any questions? I think,
No.
again, it's a
Go for
major, we have to do it. I move that we accept the staff recommendation. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thanks for the approach to it of being proactive to be here. Yep.
Sorry, I
That's-
scram.
Thank you.
Yeah, you also.
We're up to director's comments.
Excellent. Wait for my microphone. Thank you. Thank you, Tia. So a couple quick things. Some of them, as always, get mentioned as we go through this. First up is Crown Conservancy, obviously really exciting. We're moving towards $2 million of revenue, and it feels like we're going to blow past that. So just Mark and his team doing great work. Additionally, we were named Tree City USA city for the 42nd consecutive year. I remember when I wrote my first State of the City address, or helped the mayor write his first State of the City address back in 2006. This was a talking point, and it was like, we've been 25 years or something crazy. So the fact that this is carried on is just tremendous. It's also the 27th year that we've been the Tree City USA Growth Award, which is really exciting. But for the first time ever, we've received the designation of Tree City of the World.
Oh.
And so we have actually stepped up our Tree City achievements, which, you know, we talk about trees a lot at every one of these meetings. It's because it's so valuable to us. So it's just really exciting stuff. This Saturday is Earth Day, and there are all kinds of events at Lick Run, which is an amazing MSD project, stormwater retention, all the stuff we talk about all the time. That starts around noon. I think there's a volunteer project that's like 9 to noon, and then there's a all day at noon on. There's all kinds of activities and bands and stuff to do. Additionally, from 10 to 2 at Trailside Nature Center, the UC Urban Ecosystem Research class is going to be presenting their posters. And so they're going to present all the research they've done, much of it around Burnet Woods. And so that could be a really fun opportunity to see some college projects that,
What is that again?
that is from 10 to 2 at Trailside. And I'll be stopping by there as well during that time.
Yeah.
Correct, on Saturday, the 22nd, which is Earth Day. The following Friday is Arbor Day, April 28th. And so our urban forestry team's doing our official celebration at the Academy for Multilingual Immersion Studies in Roselawn at 10 a.m. There'll be a proclamation and a short program that includes Mayor Aftab, Councilmember Owens, and the principal and students. So we'd love to have you there for that. And there'll also be some tree plantings and some other activities there to get the kids involved. So feel free to come out.
What time was that again?
That is at 10 a.m. at the Academy for Multilingual Immersion Studies in Roselawn. But I will be following up with an email with all these details.
Thank you.
Rocky's already drafted it for me. But as you know, I've been spending lots of time meeting with you guys for the last days and not doing my emails. So I'm going to get caught up on that. On April 29th, the Riverfront team's hosting Tree Fest from 11 to 2 in Smale Park. So that's not this Saturday, but the following Saturday. Free event where visitors may pick up a free tree and enjoy food, dessert trucks, and music. So that's kind of fun. That's 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. April 29th at Riverfront at Smale. The Mayor's Corporate Challenge is Friday, May 12th. We had reference to that. We have 435 volunteers representing 14 organizations working at 18 locations across our system, mulching, planting, removing invasives, picking up litter, and just helping our team get ready for the summer months. Just an amazing tradition. Again, that dates back to a couple jobs ago of mine, but it's a really fun day. See everybody out and about helping take care of stuff. The mayor will be at Inwood Park, and everybody's welcome to stop by anywhere. I'm going to run around to a lot of different sites. And so I'd love to have any of you out with me to just thank everybody for all they're doing. Hopefully I can talk them into letting me get my hands dirty too. They might not let me, I don't know.
Sort of fully rebounding back from the pandemic. We had much more demand than we could accommodate on one day. Corporations and groups wanting to participate this year.
Great.
So we're doing our best to accommodate as many as we can. We're adding this big litter pickup component. But then we're also working with those groups to do other events later in the season. That's been as Crystal's our whole team in terms of getting the word out about everyone should volunteer. The mayor's office is very helpful. So it should be a lot of fun and there's sort of at capacity for what we can do on one day. The best.
Great.
Exciting stuff. On the Western region, at Mount Echo Park, there's been some great social media about this, but there was that team over there. We had Lou's team here to talk about all the cool stuff they're doing, but over in the West at Mount Echo Park, they recreated a flower bed. This was a historic flower bed that was there before. There's some photos that I can show you, or our social media team does such a great job. But before it was just kind of like a lawn, and then so I mean you can see from here, but there was just like a lawn in front of the pavilion, and then you can see the difference here as they've added in this great flower bed. So as we talk about some of the things we were talking about with our budget request about trying to equalize the intentional flower beds and beautification of parks across our system, this is a great example of how the team's already trying to do that within existing resources. And we're hopeful that with the additional resources we've asked the city for the budget process, we'll be able to, there you go. Let's be able to really supersize that and really bring this to more places, right?
I just want to know what kind of fertilizer you guys use, because all your plants just.
It's the love.
It's a lot.
No surprise, but Smale Park won another award. It is the Best City Park Award from Midwest Living Magazine. So they're a travel, food, and lifestyle magazine, but again, Smale Park just continues to get the recognition it deserves. Through our Explore Nature program, we're doing the City Nature Challenge. This is along with local partners, Great Parks Hamilton County. And it's something called the Bio Blitz, which is a global volunteer effort where cities compete to catalog plants and animals in our natural environment to help our scientists, nature education programmers with invasive species control. And it's from April 28th to May 1st, and is open to anyone with a cell phone camera, and details are on our website for that. So another exciting one. Owl's Nest, we've talked about Owl's Nest a couple times, but Owl's Nest master plan, the community is interested in, they're so excited about what we're doing with the pavilion that they're interested in kind of building out a plan for other items throughout Owl's Nest Park. whether it be lighting or benches or planters or other features. And so we're going to have a community input session at Bettman Nature Preserve next Tuesday, April 25th at 6 p.m. This is a partnership we're doing with the Parks Foundation. We've got some interested community folks that are helping us build that plan out while we're building the pavilion out and the plans for the pavilion to restore it using local architecture firm KZF. Our team's going to do the planning for the rest of the park in-house. So yet again, we're going to try to less reliance on outside planners and more reliance on our team. And then we're hopeful that we might even be able to do some of these projects similar to how Joel's thinking about the outside part of the DNR headquarters, where we can do some of our existing contracts to take care of different of these projects without even necessarily having to do kind of a whole, we need to raise $6 million. We can just be like, this project costs this costs that. And we can start to get some funders to help us with that. And then lastly, I don't know if the photos are up there or not, but President Getz came by on Monday along with the city manager for a very, very chilly press conference where we announced the opening of the restrooms for the season, but also 4 restrooms that we've taken care of through deferred maintenance. Again, had fallen in disrepair over the last couple of years. I challenged our team. I was like, I think I challenged them by trying to embarrass them, but I said, we can't just cut a ribbon. I want to like flush the first toilet or do something like that for the year. And Rocky, I think wisely told me we were not allowed to flush toilets at press conferences, but I was like, we got to do something. And so Rocky and Jenny got together with Andy and our facilities team, and they designed this beautiful valve behind us that they installed to symbolically allow the city manager to turn the valve and turn on the water for the year. So really, really exciting. And just again, another example of just our team's ingenuity. And I've got to stand up there and be on TV, which isn't necessarily my favorite thing, but I'm really doing it for all of them who just deserve all the attention and accolades in the world. So,
all right, and did you see the paper today? The article about the great need for restrooms.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, don't miss it.
But again, this is a great example too of letting people know that we are attacking our infrastructure needs.
Yes.
So I very much appreciated you guys pulling together a press conference, bring that to light, and it got good coverage. So it does show that we can, as I said before, walk and chew gum at the same time. Thank you.
So then the last thing I will just mention is that we got the news this week that there have been 2 new appointments to the park board. And well, that's exciting to bring new people in. It is certainly bittersweet for me. And I just can't thank enough Vice President Linda Lee Thomas and Commissioner Brad Lender for just all the support and faith you've shown in me and help and guidance over the last 7 or 8 months now. It's just been an honor to work with you and to do this job every day. And so I just can't thank you enough. And on behalf of like the parks staff and team and park goers everywhere, the commitment that you guys have shown to the 5,000 acres of parkland that we take care of is just the highest example of public service. And I just want to thank you both personally on my behalf for getting an opportunity to do this really awesome job, but then more broadly, just for your service to the community and what you've been able to do to make our park system, number 4 in the country. And so thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Okay, when are we going to get to meet the new folks? And how are we going to get to meet the new folks before they attend the meeting?
So my understanding is that the process is that they appeared on the council calendar yesterday for their first reading, and then they will hold their place on the agenda for a week, and then they will get voted on next Wednesday. So next Wednesday at officially like 2:10, 2:15 will be when they are appointed. And then after that, we're talking internally about what does a onboarding process, and the word initiation came to mind, but that's not the right word, but an onboarding process for new board members. And we're thinking about potentially doing like a tour. We've got a Parks 101 that Rocky's put together that they kind of update from time to time, that I've given that presentation a bunch of times. We'll kind of take them through that. Their first board meeting will be next May, or the May meeting. But then in general, my plan is to sit down with them soon. I'd love to invite them to a lunch, or if you'd like to get together with them, or I can definitely connect you.
I think it's important.
Absolutely.
And when you do that training, I wouldn't be jumping in on that.
Excellent.
Curious to see how that's done.
Yeah.
I've never been exposed to that.
Yeah.
So I was burnt by fire.
Well, it is a little bit of a, it's like, we want to create some sort of a process, but, it's been a while since we've gotten a new board member. And so, so we're kind of building it out, but just before this meeting, I had gotten a text from one of the appointees, just being excited and being like, when do we get to get together? So he's there. I think they're thinking the same thing. So all the interactions we can set up and to build these relationships and continue kind of the legacy of service and good work that we've had is, I think, important.
You in town? I'm in town.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I want to piggyback on also what Jason said, and I want to thank both of you so much for, we know the time and energy, and commitment that you've made to the parks. You both were here before I was here on the park board, and I really appreciate all the input that you've made and all the commitment to Cincinnati Parks. And I think as you look back on your time, we're in a great space right now. We have great leadership. The team that has been built out is just exceptional. And I think besides us seeing it, I think we're seeing it as Jason went through all of the accolades we're getting for our parks. It's because of the atmosphere and the organization that's been created. So I personally also want to thank you too for all your time, energy, and dedication to this park board and for all that you've done. So thank you very much. On behalf of the park board, we want to give you a small token, and we would like to plant a tree in a park of your choosing that we would like to have dedicated to you and thankful for your service to the park board. So we'll have Jason follow up with you, but we want to definitely recognize and make permanent a tree that hopefully will last a long time, and thank you and honor you for your service.
Very good.
And can I just add?
You can add anything.
This is tough.
Yes.
This is very tough because we are so comfortable. And we all know how each other thinks and so on. And it's a very cohesive board. And as you say, there are never any problems, they're just opportunities. So we'll look forward to these two newcomers as bringing opportunities. But oh man, am I sad.
Yes. Well, I think it goes without saying, just to Commissioner Castellini's comment, how well this team has worked together and the positive impact that we've had on this park system. And it's because of your leadership and history that you have brought as well. So thank you. You will definitely be missed. Know that I have you on speed dial in my phone. So please be aware that I may be calling to get some thoughts from you because of all of your time and energies. Anyway, I want to open it up to either of you if you'd like anything to add, comments.
Yes. It is bittersweet. This has been an amazing experience for me personally. I sit here with so much gratitude for all that I've experienced as a result of having the opportunity to serve in this position. This has been a great collaboration. It's been a growthful opportunity for me, and I am so thankful for it. I want to thank all of you for your support in this. And I think about, and it's so many things have been said already today that have crossed my mind, and it's this amazing staff. I know that every time I walk out of a meeting, I've learned so much because of the depth of knowledge that you embody and your expertise. It's inspiring. Your passion for your work is inspiring. It's contagious. And I've just appreciated it so much. And I've got so much I'm going to take with me, and then I'll be back. And we keep talking about number 4. Yeah, that's what somebody says. But I dare to say that we have the most beautiful, the most wonderful park system in the country. I say that whenever I go someplace else and I reflect on Cincinnati, I was like, yeah, We're better than this. And you guys do a great job. I wish you all the best, continued success, and I'm here. And I look forward to enjoying all the work that you're going to do in the future. So thank you all very much.
So I'll just, I think everybody else has said, echoed all of that, but I think when we came on, we might have been 7 or 8 in the ranking, I think, as part.
Yeah.
So we're up to 4 now. So I think Linda, along with the rest of the team, good job. So 6 years from now, we should be number 1, right?
No pressure.
Yeah. Everybody.
Now let's just look to the new people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my experience is not what I was expecting, but it's been great. It's learned a lot. And having gone through the transition that this park system has gone through in the last 6 years is incredible. There's one person in the room that was here. Everybody else is new.
Yeah.
And and we have done a tremendous job of building the staff, and the quality and their capabilities is incredible. Taking us into the 21st century, if you will, and the dedication and commitment of our staff, along with the expertise. And I remember Crystal early on was talking about, let's make decisions based on the science. Let's make things happen based on fact, on research, and Matt DeBona has been, another really incredible, aspect of that scientific methods. You know what I'm talking about. Approach to problem solving and direction and so on and so forth. So there's the process and the foundation with which I think the future direction is headed is on really good foundation, and took us a few times, but we finally landed somebody that is really going to be a very strong, effective leader.
Absolutely.
Yeah, bittersweet. Not sure what I'm going to do with my Thursday morning once a month, but I won't be a stranger. I'll continue to advocate for trails and
Biking,
invasive removals and so on and so forth. So those were my passions, still are, and there's been some good progress on that. So appreciate the experience.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you both. And
You've got my number. Keep you hooked up.
Mrs. Cassidy, do you have anything?
no,
I
not today.
don't either. I want to end that with again, just thanking you two.
Thank you.
Calling a meeting to close of an era, and really appreciate all the work that you've done. So with that, I'm going to adjourn our meeting.